Well, it's always good to see people at our city council meetings, and I just want to say thank you to those that are attending and for those that are online that are joining us this evening. So thank you for being here. We have a wonderful tradition, as you all know, that we open in prayer and the pledge. And I am so thrilled to have Reverend Bill Roscoe here this evening to open us in prayer as we start our meeting. Reverend Bill, go ahead and come over and thank you for all you do. You are a blessing to our community and to the entire Treasure Valley.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that very gracious introduction. I have to introduce my beautiful granddaughter, Gracie Roscoe. And Gracie happens to be Princess of the Universe. So it's appropriate that she's here with the mayor.
Gracie, it's so good that you're here with us. Yes, thank you.
We just came from piano lessons, so she stuck with Pepe. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for your service to our community. Mayor and council members, all of you, all of us appreciate you and the work that you do. Thank you very much. And let's pray. And Lord, we thank you this evening because you are the one who loves us the most. You are the one who pours out your mercy and your grace upon us, and we thank you with all our hearts. And I thank you, God, for these ladies and gentlemen who have chosen to serve, who you have ordained to serve. And I pray, God, that you will bless them as they deliberate this evening, as they consider all the issues on the agenda, that you'll grant them wisdom and discernment, help them to think clearly, speak clearly, and reasonably talk with one another and with the citizens. And ultimately, God, that thy will be done in this town as we look to you for that guidance and that wisdom. And we give you thanks for it in advance. In the name of Jesus. Amen. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I don't know if everyone here knows Bill Roscoe, but just in case someone doesn't, I just want to say that, Bill, how long have you had oversight of the Boise Rescue Mission?
This is my 20th big year.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll be 20 years this spring.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a great privilege to serve here with all of you and the most generous community on the face of the earth, and I sincerely mean that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Providing shelter for the men's shelter, the women's shelter, the recovery center, and you have housing besides that. And you've had a wonderful vision, and thank you, and faith is at the core. Thank you.
Faith is at the core. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's start with roll call.
Rodriguez? Here. Bruner? Munchy?
Here.
Bauer?
Here.
Haverfield?
Here.
And Levi?
Present.
So we have one amendment to the agenda, and that is amending item 5.3. It's to correct a clerical error. The contract amount should be not to exceed the amount of $82,500 rather than $80,000. Are there any other known changes or corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to approve the agenda as it's presented. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Munchy?
Yes.
And Haverfield?
Yes.
And the next part of the agenda is our proclamations. So we have a couple of proclamations this evening. And the first one that we're going to do is VFW Poppy Days. And so Lou, feel free to come forward and I will read the proclamation and then I think you have a few words. So, whereas the annual distribution of Poppy Buddies by the Veterans of Foreign Affairs of the United States has been officially recognized and endorsed by governmental leaders since 1922. And whereas VFW Poppy Buddies are assembled by disabled veterans, and the proceeds of this worthy fundraising campaign are used exclusively for the benefit of disabled and veterans in need and the widows and orphans of deceased veterans. And whereas the basic purpose of the annual distribution of Poppy Buddies by the Veterans of Foreign Affairs is eloquently reflected in the desire to honor the dead by helping the living. Whereas due to the impact of COVID-19, the selling of Poppy Buddies will not take place this year as usual. I urge the citizens of this community to recognize the merits of this cause and to support their efforts to recognize the sacrifices of our honored dead. I also urge all patriotic citizens to wear a Poppy Buddy as mute evidence of our gratitude to the men and women of this country who have risked their lives in defense of the freedoms we continue to enjoy as American citizens. Now, therefore, I, Debbie Clay, Mayor of the City of Nampa, do hereby proclaim the days in November as VFW Buddy Poppy Days. Thank you so much, Lou, for being here and always reminding us of the sacrifice.
Thank you. I've been in the VFW Auxiliary since 1983. Before that, my mother was in the Auxiliary, and we used to go downtown Nampa and walk the streets and get the Buddy Poppies. And that was when we was only getting maybe 5 cents, 10 cents. And now the things has changed, and I really enjoy it. I've been involved, and our money does go for, we have Voice of Democracy, Patriots Pen, art program. We have 2 art programs. We have a new one that involves the younger kids for illustrating America. And then part of our proceeds go to the National Home for Children that is sponsored by the VFW National. And I just love to come down here. They say, why do you do this? I said, because I like to see you guys. And I just really have enjoyed coming down. And I really, really appreciate you doing this for us. Okay. So here you go, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Make sure you get money from everyone.
Where's yours?
Huh?
Where's yours?
I gave her 20 already. You didn't.
I didn't
need to double
bring
that.
it.
I bet Randy.
Yeah, well, that,
I bet he didn't.
We're talking about not having cash with us at the moment, and I'm so sorry.
Oh. Well, that's all right.
Thank you.
And I did leave some at the back, so anybody that wants to have one there.
I already remember. I got yours. Thank you.
There you go.
There's that 20 right there.
There you go.
Oh, he's a budget guy.
Thank you so much, Lou. We appreciate you.
25 cents a tooth. Doug, we love you. We do.
He's the finance director.
He's the best.
Thank you.
I see some students back here. And you guys go on the website for the Voice of Democracy for the VFW.org, and there's contacts on there that you can win money with. You can get up to $50,000 through National for scholarships. So
I tell you what, thank you for sharing that, because for those looking for scholarships, many times it's those unknown ones that you really ought to focus on. So if you're looking for a scholarship, good idea. Thank you.
actually, let's see, which one? One of the news commentators, he was a Voice of Democracy winner way back in 1974. He since passed away. I can't remember his name now. But yes, it does help you go on to better things. So look it up, guys.
Thank you, Lou. Our next proclamation this evening is National Apprenticeship Week. And I'll read the proclamation, and then we have someone here to speak to us this evening. So, whereas National Apprenticeship Week is celebrating its 7th anniversary of raising awareness of the vital role registered apprenticeships provide in creating opportunities. These opportunities allow apprentices to earn while they learn and prepare a pathway to well-paying careers in Nampa and across the nation. And whereas registered apprenticeship programs enable employers to develop and train their future workforce while offering career seekers affordable paths to secure high-paying jobs. And whereas NAPA recognizes the role of registered apprenticeships in expanding opportunities in our workforce that are inclusive of individuals that have been historically underserved, marginalized, or adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality, thus providing a path for the qualified individuals, including women, youth, people of color, rural communities, and individuals with disabilities, to become apprentices and to contribute to NAPA's industries. And whereas NAPA recognizes that registered apprenticeship, a proven and industry-driven training model, provides a critical pipeline that can train and build up our workforce to address our community's pressing needs, such as the shortage of skilled labor workforce, modernizing our cybersecurity response, addressing public health issues, and building our city's infrastructure. Now, therefore, I, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, Idaho, do hereby proclaim November 15 through 20, 2021 as National Apprenticeship Week by recognizing those businesses who offer and participate in apprenticeships. And I believe that we have Maureen O'Toole here this evening and possibly someone else. So thank you, Maureen, for coming and joining us. Thank you. Yes, you may. And here we go. There you go. Thank you. Would you like to say anything? Yeah.
Thank you for letting me come today and receive this proclamation. I started the morning with a proclamation from the governor, and we have Cindy Amson, who's from the Nampa School District, and we're trying to create 400 apprenticeship opportunities for 16 to 24-year-olds. And she's one of our partners in this, and the Nampa School District is going to help us, especially with our kids in those career and technical education programs. They're learning incredible skills while they're still in high school, and they can be employed right now with good salaries. And I loved it when Lou was talking about the veterans thing, because I'm a veteran, Todd's a veteran, and I'm speaking to about 300 veterans tomorrow about how they can participate in apprenticeship, or their kids can, because it's a way for people to have a good job now, a good salary now. You could do it with a college degree or without, but it's a way for our people to get local jobs that local employers are looking for talent at. So thank you for letting us speak.
Thank you for championing. Really appreciate it. It's so important for our local community and filling the jobs. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We have one last proclamation, and I'm not going to read through the whole proclamation because there isn't anyone particular here to receive it, but it is a proclamation that this Saturday after Thanksgiving, which is November 27th, is Small Business Saturday. And it's so important that we support our small businesses. In Nampa, I used to say that 4 out of 5 of our businesses are small businesses. And recently, Nampa was noted as number 2 in the top 10 boom towns in the United States. And what I was pleased with, because a lot of people aren't too crazy about the growth, right? So it may not be something to be proud of. However, the reason that we were noted as number 2 was because between 2014 and 19, the total number of establishments, that's jobs, in Nampa grew by 29%. The highest rate in the top 10 boomtowns. That's worth being proud of, because that's what it's about, is providing jobs and businesses. And a lot of those businesses are small businesses, which are so important to our local economy. So I would just urge the residents of our community to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. And I know that our downtown Nampa will have the Christmas tree lighting, and businesses will be open on that Saturday after Thanksgiving. And support local, right? Shop local and support our local small businesses. So that's the conclusion of our proclamations. And so we have the opportunity tonight. We have 2 great opportunities to honor someone. And we're going to do our first one. And this is the section in our agenda where Nampa residents wishing to speak for 3 minutes have the opportunity to do so. We also use it as an opportunity to recognize someone special or some special group. Before we get to our second group, we're going to start with Louise. And I need to find my notes here. I know, Louise, and I tell you the incredible work that you have done. So Louise is the executive director of Breaking Chains Academy of Development, and they help youth complete their GED and HSE. And I know somebody else will speak to that. You entered, Louise, as a student, I understand, before becoming a mentor and a tutor. and you're one of 2 full-time staff who work tirelessly to ensure that there's always food, essential supplies, and an understanding role model. I just want to thank you for what you do. And I think, Kenton Lee, do you have something you'd like to share? Thank you.
Council, thank you so much. I'm the board chair for Breaking Chains and wanted to let you know that the Idaho Out of School Network, also called ION, their mission is to ensure Idaho's youth have access to high quality out of school or after school programs. The research on out of school programs reveals that youth consistently enrolled in quality programs perform better academically, have better school attendance, adapt better socially, and are more likely to graduate from high school and go on to higher learning. Each year, ION selects 6 regional champions in Idaho, people who go above and beyond to help students succeed in after-school programs. And for these 6 regional champions receive a special recognition called the Lights On After School Champion Award. And we are so proud that Luis Granados was selected in our region as the 2021 Lights On After School Champion.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being recognized for the work that we're doing here in Nampa. I want to say thank you for all the support from City Council, from Mayor Kling, Gene, Victor, Kenton, Jeff. I saw Chief Huff in here somewhere. There he is. I had an awesome conversation with them earlier this year about our community and our youth, and it was just awesome to be in that police station and you know, have that time and space with them to really talk about our community. If I recall, the last time I was in that police station was 2008, and I was under arrest, so things have changed drastically for the good. And so I just want to say thank you to all, everybody that supports our organization. Also, just that I'm absolutely in love with what I'm doing here and what we're doing here for the youth. I've been working with youth for 9 years now, and I'm just absolutely honored to be surrounded by them. I'm honored to be in this community, to be in Nampa, and to have support from you all. So thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. So Jean, go for it.
Oh, Luis, you're one of my favorite humans in the world. I met Luis a few years ago at Serve the Day, and he had a group of kids there, and the mayor was there. And they were lifting tables and helping people get food, and he invited me over and went over and met with him. And Luis, there are people in the world who make an indelible difference. Not just for one person or 2 people, but for groups of kids who feel forgotten, who don't feel like they matter, they don't feel like they belong. And you give them hope, you give them a purpose, you give them a place. And I was over there today with Dr. Nekachea, and we were able to celebrate Ray Ray finishing his HSE, get to rock babies to sleep, 14-year-olds who have kids raising kids, who have a place to bring them. They know they're going to be fed, they know that they're in a safe, stable environment. These are kids who otherwise probably would be seeing Chief Huff on the regular. And I think what's remarkable about Luis is he knows that not every one of those kids is going to make the best decisions, even after they've been with him, but he always leaves the door open. It's kind of like the prodigal son. They always can come back. And I haven't heard one kid in that program who has said that you haven't changed and saved their life. And we need like 1 million more of you. Well, that'd be a lot of growth in the community. How about 10,000 more of you? Because we have to be able to house you. We need people like you who are committing your life to making sure that the underdog has a chance. I'm so proud of all of the accomplishments. And what struck me last week was going in there and seeing 5 kids who went to elementary school with my daughter. And I was a little shocked. Like, what are you doing here? But then I also was able to take a step back and say, they're in a good place. Luis has got them. So even when the traditional pathway hasn't worked for these kids, you're there to be a safety net, but you're there to be a big brother. I know you don't sleep well. You worry about those kids. He'll text me, did you see the news? Was that one of my kids? And he's always, always worried, but also watching the bridge that Chief Huff has built between these kids and Luis is remarkable. You don't have to do those things, but you guys choose to because we're just a remarkable community of people who care about each other. And if anything in my time on council here, I'm so honored to have met some of the most incredible people in the world because you live right here. And thanks, Luis, and thank you to his beautiful daughter for letting your dad do what he does, because I know it takes a lot of time away from you. So thanks for letting him be a champion for other kids. Congrats, Luis.
Congratulations.
So, Mayor, I'm always curious with kids, the daughter's name and what grade she's in. You mind telling us? Name and,
My name is Ariana, and I am in 6th grade,
where do you go to school, Ariana?
West Middle School.
Very good. Thanks for, pretty proud of your dad, I bet, huh? Yeah, I know.
Thank
he's
you for
proud of
coming.
Okay.
Thank you. So we have one other group to honor tonight. They're all standing right along that back wall, and we're so glad you're with us. So this is the Skyview Varsity Girls Volleyball team, and Skyview High School is back-to-back 5A state champions in volleyball. Wow, what do you say about that? That's impressive. And so my understanding is you finished 36-2, with their 2 losses coming to nationally ranked teams outside of Idaho. They beat the number 4 nationally ranked team from Assumption from Kentucky, I think, a 6A state championship from Oregon, and a 6A state championship from Utah. So that is cool. You're currently ranked 13 in the nation by USA Today. That is impressive. My goodness. And Coach Kevin Murphy was named the 5A SIC Coach of the Year, and it has a record of 80-8, only 8 losses over the last 4 years. We're blessed to have you here. It's wonderful. Thank you for your work. You've won 11 consecutive conference championships, and the seniors on this team have never lost a conference game. Is that right? Wow. Amazing. And this year, I hear you won 60 straight sets. This is just incredible. So, Skyview is arguably the most dominant nationally ranked high school sports team in Idaho, and we are proud of their accomplishments in representing our Nampa community. Congratulations, girls. My goodness. Why don't you guys come on forward? Come on up here and we'll take a picture with you. And as you come, I think Jacob has something to share.
No, what they've done is absolutely incredible. 13th in the country out of all the schools, New York, California. And I'd love if Coach Murphy had a few words to say, I'd love to hear from him. And this is such an incredible team. We may not see this.
Just go face that.
You can just stand along here and face out, and then we look forward to hearing from Coach Murphy. And then, Jacob, how are you connected?
Nieces.
2 nieces are on the team. Who are the nieces?
Bowers, raise your hands.
Bowers. Oh, there you go. Good for you. Share with us a little bit. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you very much. This is a great honor and privilege to be here. We're really excited to get this invitation. So thanks for taking time of your night here and inviting us down here. This is terrific. These girls are incredible. I know you mentioned a lot of the stats. What's great about these kids is they love challenges. Nampa's in great hands with these kids. They love the challenges. We go and we play the very best in Oregon and Utah, and not only compete but beat them. We go down to Vegas to play the very best teams we can, and they love those challenges, and they're beating some of the very best teams in the country. For a small school like us, it's pretty remarkable to be in the top 10, top 15 in the country. And again, challenges are nothing for these kids. We didn't have a gym this entire season. We never practiced at our high school. We never played a game at our high school. We were at local community schools playing and practicing and doing whatever we could, and it didn't faze these kids at all. These guys are winners, so you're in good hands with these kids.
Wow. Thank you so much. Come on up here and let's take a photo with you guys. And council, come on around behind him if you can. Let's squeeze and be a part of it. And come on over and.
Jacob, you're in the center, buddy.
Yes, you are. You can come right here. Okay, here. I'm going to move my chair. Randy, are you in there?
Yeah, I think so.
Is Randy in there? Congratulations, team. Thank you for coming. This is awesome. We're so proud of you. Thank you so much. And to the parents standing out there, thank you for your commitment. It's a big commitment, isn't it? They couldn't do it without you, so thank you. Thank you. And yes, Jacob, thank you for making this happen. We appreciate it. Okay, so we're still in the residents wishing to speak for 3 minutes on an agenda item, and I think we have a couple of other people.
Larry Overstreet?
Larry, as you come, go ahead and give us your address, and then we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Yes, I am homeless. I was just wondering when we're going to be able to put more stuff out for the homeless people, places to park, hot showers, hot meals, and places to sleep.
Larry, thank you for asking the question. I'd love to sit down and visit with you and better understand what your needs are
Okay.
so that we can actually see how better to address. Have you been at our men's shelter?
No, I haven't, not yet.
Okay, and you know what? They were closed for the longest time. They are now open, and they have wonderful meals, I think. So I'm not sure as they've reopened exactly what they have, but feel free if you haven't already reached out to our office. Even tomorrow, we'll have at least that answer for you.
Okay.
And then I'd love to meet with you and better understand what
Okay.
your needs are.
Okay.
But thank you for coming to City Council
You're welcome.
tonight, and it's so nice to meet you.
Thank all you ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have Lorraine Bat Jones.
Hi, Lorraine. Good. Go ahead and share your address.
My name's Lorraine. I live at 418 North Copper Tree Drive. Tonight I'll be speaking just a little bit what's near and dear to my heart. Many things are because I'm born and raised Idaho, but tonight I'll be speaking on the homeless. So it's really been saddening to see what's going on in our city. We need to kind of try to address it, and I'll speak a little bit on it. People have the right to rest and be dry and warm with their possessions intact. I've called, whoops, I'm getting a call. It's called shelter. If you can't find a way in your heart and wallet to open up another building for the people here during the day and night when the most loud people, you must allow people to make their own shelter somewhere within the city limits. These are my friends and neighbors. I consider some of these folks in the city and region who live outside because they're too poor to afford rent. My family. We need to do the right thing, either by stopping the constant move-alongs that the police department do, and help these people. Being too poor to afford rent or quality for housing is not a crime. Let's do better for our residents. The community and unsheltered are trying. Will you try much harder than ever to help them this year? Just wait until we reach the zeros. We need 24-hour shelter before it snows or freezes. In our vehicles or on the ground, they are our responsibility to rehabilitate and love on. We should be providing gas cards or shower cards to help better these people. You see a lot of the unhoused people are cleaning up the areas. You guys probably haven't seen it, but they are. They're cleaning up certain areas that they've been congregating. They're picking up the trash. I'd love to show you some of those areas. They want inclusion, validation, the right to exist. They want to earn respect, and it should be afforded to them. Let's fight poverty, not the poor. Thank you.
Lorraine, thank you so much for coming. I look forward to meeting with you. I think I have a date on the calendar.
We have an appointment. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I think you've already met with a couple of our council
I
members.
have a couple of them. I'd like to meet with a couple more. I think I know Jacob Bauer and
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for
Yes,
sharing that. We
thank you.
appreciate it, and we look forward to following up.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have Parker Fitzen.
Howdy, I'm Parker Fitzen. I live at 1123 West Teton Avenue. And So 2 weeks ago, we had the elections for the city. And when I went there, I noticed that the polling place that I went to, and a lot of my friends who also went to different polling places noticed this at their locations as well. But a lot of the polling locations didn't have adequate parking for bicycles or places to lock them up. When I went to my polling location, which is the New Hope Baptist Church on Iowa, between Midland and Middleton, there were bikes that were chained to trees or to posts coming out of bushes. And yeah, I think we really ought to be providing infrastructure for people to lock up their bikes and feel safe leaving them out there when they go out to vote, just so that we can encourage the most participation from voters in our community for stuff like that. So that's basically all I got to say for that.
I want to say thank you. You know what? We heard a lot of comments about the election day and about the lines being long and a number of different challenges. But this is the first time I've heard about this, and I thank you so much for bringing it to our attention. As this is important, right?
Yep.
So thank you for your courage to come to City Council to let us know, and we will include it in our communication. And then I would also encourage you to reach out to Canyon County Elections. They oversee the elections and are responsible for the polling locations and staffing, et cetera. We will let them know about your communication, but it would even be stronger if you let them know directly.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing that with us. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Is there anyone else that had intended to speak for 3 minutes on an agenda or non-agenda item? Okay, seeing none. The next item on our agenda would be agency and commission reports, of which we have none. We do have staff communications from Jeff Barnes.
Mayor and City Council, I'll be giving the update from Public Works for Tom Points tonight. If you have any questions, certainly would like to answer those. We have a lot going on in Public Works. I'm going to focus on just one tonight. Very excited about a lot of the action in the transportation side. We have big challenges, but we're making progress. Next year will probably be our biggest construction year. I know when people hear that, they think a big mess, but I tend to think of progress if we do it right. So next year will probably be pretty epic as far as intersection construction and moving forward with our funding plan. One of the ways we're going to be doing this is putting together a transportation advisory group, which I wanted to provide some information on that tonight. The group is going to be working through major initiatives that we have coming up. It's a collaborative group. It's made up of people with expertise in transportation, interest in transportation. It's going to be a public sector, citizen led. There'll be city council member representation and a number of ex officio folks from different entities in the region, the highway districts, ITD, and the state. So wanted to give just a little bit of a description of what the group is. We really want to work towards modernizing and revitalizing Nampa's transportation system. We feel like this can be a good place, sounding board to give good input to the city council when we've worked through these tough issues. Some of the things we're going to be working through are developing a funding plan and continuing with those initiatives. Right now we're working on the state and federal side on the funding plan, working with ITD, and that we're seeing really good progress there. The next is to develop a 5-year work plan. That would be, we have a 20-year plan right now, and we kind of work through a 1 to 3 year plan. This 5-year plan will be online. You can get online and see just what projects we have planned, what the cost of those projects is over the next 5 years. This group will help to choose some of those projects. We're going to be updating transportation elements in the policy manual and in our engineering standards, and so this group will be working on those type of major initiatives. It's a 2-year group, so it's a start-finish group. I'm really looking forward to getting this group together and pushing some of these initiatives forward. So with that, or any other public works questions you might have?
Mayor Klieg. Yes, I'm really proud of this committee that's going to take place, Mayor and fellow council, because what started this is that Jeff had the idea. And then Don Wixom, who is a member of our community, he's a real estate agent. But Don came, got a hold of me, and I got a hold of Jeff and said, he has some solutions for our traffic and at our intersections, and it barely just common sense, wouldn't cost much at all. So we met with him, and oh my gosh, he had some beautiful ideas, didn't he?
He did.
It was just
Yeah.
plain common sense work
Yeah.
and he says that he wanted to help. Well, the community now has a say-so as to be able to how to progress our transportation department. And I'm really excited about this committee. I think it's going to go well. I think it's going to go, it's going to progress what we do and how it makes it easier for our community to go along with it. So thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate that.
I agree. I'm excited for it because one of the things that we did early on with wastewater treatment plant project was we formed that committee, the design review committee, to ensure that citizens have input. And then moving forward with this, I think, Jeff, you're doing an amazing job. I tell you, we are truly blessed in the city of Nampa to have the people we have doing the work they're doing and looking out for the best interest of our citizens. And that's what's important. And by getting the citizen input, it just helps you do a better job. But you're doing a great job, right? Just continue the flow. So thank you so much. Great work. Any other comments, questions?
Mayor, I just hope there's some folks on the committee that love roundabouts. Oh.
We'll get into all that. It wouldn't be a transportation item without a roundabout discussion.
As long as it's by James' house, that's all that matters to me.
You woke Randy up on that one.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. And I will
Thank
say
you,
for
Mayor.
council that sometime in December or January, we will be talking about council appointments. And so we'll be talking about kind of realigning with the change in our, when Natalie joins the bench here and who's with us this evening. And so we'll be talking about those appointments and you'll have an opportunity to all raise your hands regarding where you want to sit and what you want to do. And somebody will be on there. Don't know who it is today.
Thank you. Great.
Yeah. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into new business items. And the first new business item is actually the reappointment of Rich Williams to a 5-year term on the Nampa Library Board of Trustees. Is Rich here? Hi, Rich. It's like, I know you. It's like, there you are. I want to say, first of all, thank you for your service initially and your desire to continue to serve. It is greatly appreciated. And thank you for your passion and your leadership with the Nampa Library. So this next term will be a term from January 1, 22 through 12/31 of 26 on the Nampa Library Board of Trustees. And the recommendation comes from the entire board and the interview committee. So I would stand for a motion.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for the reappointment of Rich to the Nampa Library Board of Trustees. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Machi?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Haverfield?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Bruner?
Yes.
Congratulations and thank you. Thank you so much.
We gonna let him get away without talking?
Well, would you like to share something with us? I know last time he did, it was great. You can do it.
No, thank you very much. In my original letter a year ago, I indicated that my family are voracious readers. In fact, I just finished a book that a couple of my daughters just recommended, Educated. If you haven't read it, you ought to. It's about an Idaho family in eastern Idaho and a remarkable woman who has essentially escaped her family to end up with a scholarship and a PhD from Cambridge, and all the trials that she went through. And that family business that she escaped from is still a booming multi-million-dollar Idaho business. So it's a remarkable Idaho story with some pretty sad commentary on some of the life that some of our citizens in Idaho go through, but a lot of lessons to be learned. And so that's the reason I enjoy being involved. I know that reading is critical to every citizen, and whether our youth especially, but even adults who are trying to capture that expertise, and I'm grateful to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next agenda item is to actually adopt and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution approving updates to the City of Nampa Employee Handbook. So the information was in your packet. This is information that we discussed and approved in our budget back in the summer. Are there any questions? Would you like to hear from Jamie, or is there a motion to approve?
Mayor, I'm fine with making the motion to approve these amendments as proposed to us.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Levi?
Yes.
Butchie?
Yes.
And Haverfield.
Yes.
And I would like to take just a minute to say, Jamie, thank you for being here. Thank you for your leadership and your vision as we move forward. It's really appreciated. Thank you. Item 5.3 on the agenda is to authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Thusen Krupp Elevator Corporation for the Nampa Development Services Center elevator modernization not to exceed the amount of $82,500. This has been approved by legal and it is in the budget.
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Butchie?
Yes.
Bauer? Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
And Brunner.
Yes.
The next item, thank you so much, Brian. On the agenda is an action item. This is to authorize the advertisement to proceed with the request for qualifications for the Airport Business Planning Consultant Services. This was reviewed by legal. It is approved in the FY22 budget. And Jeff is here if you have any questions regarding this, or is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the request as presented to us.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
One question, Mayor, please, if I could. Jeff, is there a cap to the amount that's going to be paid for these services?
Yeah, Mayor and Councilman, $50,000 is where we set the cap.
And what, did they give you a price, how much they're going to be coming in with?
We had one company turn in, and we didn't ask for it, just a proposal, and it was within that range. So we think we can get a really good consultant to come and help us steer through the business planning process. So.
Okay, that's all I had, Mayor, thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm excited to get this done. I think it's really important as we move forward, so thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Levi?
Yes.
Butchie?
Yes.
And Haverfield.
Yes.
Item 5.5 is an action item. This is to authorize staff to submit applications for FY22 federal grant funding for the city transportation projects, and this includes city matching dollars, which are typically 7.34%. Needless to say, it is a list, but it is to authorize the city to move forward with grant funding. Would you like?
So move.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Jeff, great job. Yeah, good job on putting it together. Is there any discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
I think it again just demonstrates the incredible job that the team does. The dollars that come into the city versus the match the city has to make. It's remarkable. I hope that folks who are looking through packets really look at that. $30 million with the city matching 2.2. Nice job, Jeff.
Mayor, just off the subject, but since our president just did sign the bill, do we have any idea, Jeff, at this point in time, I guess Idaho knows how much they're receiving from this, but do we have any idea what we're receiving as far as the city of Nampa for infrastructure? Big
Said
word
it was going to be an epic year.
What's that?
Said it was going to be an epic year.
Mayor, City Council, so I just kept looking at it and researching it today. So most of that money is funneling into the state for larger type projects. There's VRT, there's broadband infrastructure. The amount that's actually come to the city, we'll see. So we're gonna be ready and that we're preparing capital projects for it. But as far as determining an amount that's set aside, it says roads and bridges, how much of that will actually reach the locals is probably some legislative discussions. So, no, I can have more information. on that.
Highway 16 on the south, we are going to lobby for that, right?
There'll be money for those type of projects, certainly, larger
And
state
that
projects.
is scheduled, it'll start in the spring and be done in 18 to 24 months.
That's
Oh,
north. I'm talking
southbound.
about south.
That is a discussion that we will be having, absolutely, yes. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're meeting with the state in a couple weeks on that one, so.
good.
Thanks, Jeff.
The one thing I do know is that in a meeting a little bit earlier today on grants, that we have, working with Doug, $30 million in grants right now that are getting ready to go out. I'm really proud of our streets division, the work that Jeff's doing, because we have projects that are ready to go. As soon as those grant dollars come available, we've got the projects that we can apply. We don't start planning, we're already planning. And you've done a great job with that, and we'll be ready to go.
Great.
So, good question. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Haverfield?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
And Berner.
Yes.
Item 5.6 is just the canvass of votes from the November 2021 election. City Clerk's office is on this one. Are there any discussions on it?
So these are certified.
It's certifying the election, yes.
Was the action to accept their certification?
I believe so. I'm sorry, I'm reading what is on my agenda, which is, it should be reading that we are to certify the canvass of votes that was taken from the November 2. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion on that? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Berner?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
And Bauer.
Okay, so it is 6:15, and you know what? We're going to skip over because the next item on the agenda are public hearings, but we're going to move over to unfinished business and get that out of the way. So we have 4 items, and normally the people sitting here don't get to hear all these. Yeah,
Luckily.
except for the Harrises that usually stay till the end.
And Margie.
And Margie. Yes, that's true. And Darren. Okay, so we're going to move to 7.1. This is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for the amendment of Title VI Police Regulations, Chapter 5 Bicycles, and Title 9 Public Ways and Property, Chapter 5 Public Parts, Section 2E Prohibited Acts pertaining to e-bikes and scooters, revising the bicycle definition and adding e-bike definition. And it goes on, and I have a feeling that you're going to be reading it, so I'm not going to read it all. So go for it. And it is requested to pass under suspension of rules with the summary of publications, which is 7.2.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, amending Title 6, Chapter 5, Sections 651 through 653, and enacting Title 6, Chapter 5, Sections 654 through 656 of the Nampa City Code pertaining to bicycles, electric bicycles, scooters, and electric scooters, amending Title 9, Chapter 5, Section 952 pertaining to the prohibited acts in public parks, providing for severability, and allowing for a summary of this ordinance to be published, providing for an effective date, and repealing all ordinances, rules, and regulations and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
Mayor Kling, I'll make a motion to pass ordinance as read under suspension of rules and along with the summary of publication.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
I have a question and perhaps legal can clear it up for me. Under section 2, letter E, where it talks about recreational activities, and at the last line is hunting and the use of firearms and/or fireworks will be prohibited in public parks. That sounds like a really obvious statement, but my concern is because we can open carry, we can conceal that type of thing, and if there were something that happened in the park and someone needed to draw their firearm, are they covered?
So, Madam Mayor and Councilmember Levi, what we are looking at is existing language. So it's in the code currently. The new language is that regarding e-bikes and scooters just below. Let me take a quick look at this existing language here.
And legal, if you need a few minutes to review that, we could move on to the next one and come back.
I'm okay,
That's up to
Mayor.
you. Okay.
So I see this as limiting those restrictions to playing games. So I don't think defending yourself would be considered that. And then hunting and use of firearms. It's not hunting. I think a use of a firearm to defend yourself, that would be, a question that our law enforcement prosecutor would have to look at. I don't suspect that a legitimate defense of yourself would be prosecuted, but Councilmember Levi, it does say use, so there's a possibility of that. If that's something that the council would like to look at or discuss further with the prosecutor, we can.
Thank you.
Well, I believe, so the public hearing was held on 10/18. And obviously, we approved this at that time. So I'm just curious, this is a new question that has arisen evidently after the vote of the council back on the 18th, before we created the ordinance. So I guess it's been moved and seconded, but any further discussion regarding this particular item?
Mayor Kling. Todd, did you say that this was existing language?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Haverfield, yes. So your changes were voted on the new, and if you want to take up the other issue, that'd be a separate change.
So my motion stands as it is.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Bauer?
No.
Levi?
No.
Mucci?
Yes.
And Haverfield.
Yes.
Okay, we're moving to 7.3 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for the vacation of a 2x36 portion of a 5-foot public utility easement along the west property line and a 2-foot by 25 portion of an easement, public utility easement on the southern property. This is for a swimming pool, and the location is, I'm trying to find the address here, 2711 East Rhyolite Court for Diana and Chris Carswell.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, vacating a 2-foot by 36-foot portion of a 5-foot public utility easement and a 2-foot by 25-foot portion of a 5-foot public utility easement, approximately 126 square feet total, within a portion of the property more commonly known as 2711 Rhyolite Court, parcel 294541960, consisting of approximately 0.17 acres, more particularly described below, in Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, and directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map and other applicable maps accordingly, providing for an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
And it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, guys, the rest of the council, these guys have taken almost every motion right and second, which is fine. Thank you for keeping us moving forward. So we may have to have somebody else get right on it.
They love attention.
They're waiting for the public hearing.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
And Haverfield.
Yes.
Okay, and 7.4. This is the first reading of ordinance for a zoning map amendment for, from GB1, which is Gateway Business to Light Industrial District, and a development agreement in order to build a Ditch Witch of the Rockies equipment dealership and rental location at 0 East Hunt Avenue for equipment and implement sales. And this is for Drew Bridwell, representing Orange Power Group. And it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
So moved.
There you go.
What?
He has to read it.
Second.
Jacob, that was great.
That was good.
Just after say your motion still stands.
Mayor, is Councilman Bauer allowed to read the ordinance, maybe?
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, to provide an IL zone designation for certain lands commonly known as 0 Hunt Avenue, Nampa, Idaho, County Parcel R31067128800, comprising approximately 5.04 acres, more or less, determining that said zoning is in the best interest of the citizens and consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, rezoning said property from GB1 to IL, providing for recordation, instructing the city engineer to designate said property as IL on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, subject to the terms of that certain development agreement entered into between the applicant and the City of Nampa, and directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map accordingly, providing for an effective date, and repealing all ordinances, rules, and regulations and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
Jacob's on.
Jump on it.
Second.
Second.
Well,
Under
under
suspension of rules.
rules and public.
Learn the lingo.
I'll second that again.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Jacob said he's competitive.
Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Munchy?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Bauer.
Yes.
I would say it is absolutely wonderful to be through all the business items before public hearing. So We could-
Mayor, can I have a question though on public hearings?
Yes.
Do we give these, the applicants times when they're approximate times?
Yes, 6:30.
No, I know that. I'm talking about, I'm just
Oh,
looking
no.
at 6:4, and if a person's waiting at 6:30, 6:4 to me would go, I'm assuming a little quick. And I just wonder if there's any chance that we can move that one up if the applicant is ready when we do start.
Well,
That's
actually,
your
none
call-
of them this evening are expected to have a large turnout.
Okay.
And so I actually leave this to, we do go over which one should go first. And so it's so hard to know because somebody has to wait. But we try to have the largest amount of people
I
go
just saw a
first.
couple of these that did have comments from individuals.
So we're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll be right back because we can't start until 6:30. So here we go.
Better hurry, Darrell. Better hurry for what? Don't want, give yourself time to get down the ramp.
How are you? Good. Okay, I think we're ready to get started with action item 6.1. I need a bell. What do you think? Should we do a tap, tap, tap?
There's Gene.
That doesn't work. Okay. So as we get started,
Caldwell doesn't have a very.
You lost Darrell.
so the first public hearing, and we'll go ahead and just say what it is. Okay, so our first public hearing is item 6.1. This is an action item. This is annexation and zoning to two-family residential duplex zoning district and a potential development agreement and subdivision preliminary plat for Wood Poppy subdivision at 0 Northside Boulevard. This is a 9.51 parcel. This is for Jerem Wagner and Trilogy Development, representing Corey Barton Endurance Holdings. The original concept was a 72 multifamily units on 18 buildable lots and 7 common lots for a gross density of 7.57. This is the public hearing that we opened at the last meeting, and we've continued it to tonight. So, is our applicant here? Good evening, Jerem. Come on forward. And by the way, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Madam Mayor. And also appreciate you moving this to tonight. That way I only had to miss one city council meeting in Caldwell rather than 2 in a row. So they're over there doing their thing while I'm here doing mine. So anyway, but it's good to be here with you tonight. So as you mentioned, this is a request for Wood Poppy subdivision and annexation of 9.5 acres with RD zoning. So the reason for the RD zoning is the proposal of the 18 multifamily lots that we have planned, the fourplexes on this property. And kind of give a breakdown up there of the different units that are proposed. Like I said, so it'll be 18 different units. There'll be 8 3-bedroom, 2-bath units, also 8 2-bedroom, 1-bath unit, 8 1-bedroom, 1-bath, and then 48 2-bedroom, 2-bath. So get a good mix in there. So depending on the family circumstances, number of bedrooms and bathrooms they need, so just give a good mix there so we can have a good overall development for it. The common area proposed is 1.7 acres, which is 18% of the total area. Within those common areas, we're proposing a community playground, which is centralized to the development itself, and then also 2 picnic shelters, one to be located next to the community playground and one on the southwest or southeast portion of the property. And then also proposing 162 parking spaces for the units. And this shows just the vicinity map for the property, gives you the location of that. So it's the area of Northside and Ustick, that northeast corner there, and the Heartland Homes that surrounds it to the north and to the east. That's already in the city limits. And this is the proposed preliminary plat showing the access coming off of Northside Boulevard. There is an access that we'll be sharing with that Heartland already has their portion in, so we'll be utilizing that access for the north portion. And then also secondary access, just because the number of the units that are in there, we need to make sure we have dual access for the fire department if they need to get in there and one access is blocked. We had looked at a possible access on the south, but just there's not enough separation between the intersection in there, so we couldn't get anything in there on that. So that's the reason for the 2 accesses on Northside Boulevard. Here's the proposed landscape plan that shows the layout of the subdivision along with the proposed landscape, the buffer along Northside as well as along Ustick Road, the interior landscaping. And this will come up later. I know that I had a really good discussion. There's a letter that you received from Mrs. Flaherty. We spoke today at length in regards to some of her concerns to see, what could we address. Some of them we couldn't. I know they talked about flipping the fourplexes to face Northside, and I explained to her that we just can't take access off of Northside into that. We have to have an interior road, and she understood that. But we did talk about, if there was a need or desire to have increased landscaping, particularly along the eastern boundary there, to provide some additional, site obscuring between those 2 developments. We are more than welcome to do that. We want to be careful of not over landscaping, that in the future that if we put too many trees too close together, that could create issues. We want to make sure that those trees can flourish and grow over time, but also trying to provide some screening for those residential homes that are coming in the near future to there. So we're more than amenable to add additional landscaping as you see fit along that eastern boundary and perhaps even along that northern boundary also to provide that additional screening that Mrs. Flaherty and perhaps others would be interested in. So we're more than amenable to do something like that for the project. And this is the future land use map that shows the wood poppy project there in the center. Medium density is obviously on the property and the surrounding properties also. This fits in nicely with that proposal. It's at a great location for something like this. Obviously, you want a good mix of housing. We know that housing is a priority right now throughout Idaho, and especially in Canyon County with the growth that we've been experiencing with the increased home prices that just continue to escalate even more every week, it seems like. And so providing opportunities for, first-time home buyers right now. If I was a first-time home buyer right now, I'd be in a world of hurt because I couldn't afford a home. So I'd be looking definitely at something like this. So just trying to provide an opportunity to a very quickly growing area to provide a mix of different, housing types for this area so that the wonderful citizens of Nampa have a place to live and to enjoy this great city. And this just shows some of the renderings for the proposed fourplexes. So there's 3 different styles that are being proposed, just so you kind of have an idea of what these will look like when they do get under construction. And that concludes my report. I stand for any questions.
Council, do you have any questions? Councilman Haverfield.
How you doing, Jerem?
Good.
The fourplexes are stacked units. The lower level units would meet Fair Housing Act requirements, I assume.
Yes, that is correct. Sorry, Madam Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, yes. So for those lower ones, typically it's where they're convertible to like an A, B unit for handicap accessibility. So yes, those would meet, excuse me, all of those requirements for that.
So are these 2-bedroom, 2-bath, up and down?
And I haven't looked at the layout, so where the 2-bedroom and 2-bath as far as whether they're on the top floor or on the bottom floor, but those would definitely meet, whatever requirements were required or part of that.
So you don't have any 3-bedroom units, I guess?
We do have some, so let me go back to that first. There's I believe 8 3-bedroom, 2-bath units, if I remember correctly. So 8 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and then the majority are 2-bedroom, 2-bath units.
And all of the parking is surface parking, there's no garages?
That is correct.
But you do have some shade structures, it looks like, possibly?
So there's shade with the trees, but as far as shade structures, there won't be any implemented on the development itself. It'll all be just open parking.
Colored rendering kind of appears to have some shown, is why I asked.
It does, and I know that there was some confusion on that, and we tried to get it removed. Yeah, I think right there you can kind of see where those brown areas. So, but that will not be covered parking. I know that some cities require it. I know it seems like fire departments really don't like it because they like to be able to move the trucks a bit easier in and out of there. So there will not be any proposed covered parking. It'll just be open space parking.
And your parking count, I assume you've taken into consideration the requirements of the 2 per unit plus the ADA spaces. You have enough to cover that?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, we most definitely have met those requirements.
And then the last question, I thought I saw, it went by quickly, was the percentage that is common area.
Yeah, so that is, let's see if we go back a couple.
Exceeded 15%.
Yep, so it exceeded that, so 18%, and I'll go back to this and I can highlight those areas for you. So, what's that? Oh, okay. So the central location, yes, they'll help me out right there. Thank you so much on that, Parker. So yeah, that's the general common area with the playground, and then also a shade structure there for that picnic pavilion. And then in the southeast, right there is another picnic pavilion to that location there. So we wanted to centrally locate it that. And also some of the neighbors had concerns that the neighborhood next door, they didn't want it right next to them as regards to noise and things like that of kids that might be out playing. So I mean, centralized location is best because that way it's best for everybody to get to, then also provides where the noise will be retained on site.
So what currently is the setback along that eastern, is it east? Yeah, along the eastern boundary line. What are the setbacks of the units to that property line?
So those, and Parker can help me on this, I believe is 20 feet on those setbacks over there. Does that sound correct? Can you see on there? Actually, it might be 25. I think 20 is the landscape, and then there's an additional 5 feet on most of the units. There is one, if you'll notice, that one unit, I think it's the third one down, that is hugs right up next to that required landscape buffer, but the others are at least 5 feet further in from that, so around 20 to 25 feet setback from that property line.
Your point about additional landscaping would just be more shrubs and trees, not so much more of a separation.
Correct. So it'll be more, and the trees would be the main focus. I know in talking with Mrs. Flaherty, she doesn't really care about the shrubs because obviously those would be well below the fence line. So more trees in that location to provide that visual.
So what's been presented to us is more a simplified graphic. It's not a finalized landscape plan at this point, or is it?
So it's what we had proposed. Let's see, I went the wrong.
I guess you have a plan.
So it's what we had proposed. So these trees are your class 3 trees along there, 1 in the center. And I know that Mrs. Flaherty in particular had talked about having multiple larger trees in the back just to provide continual view, to block the view continually throughout there. So we would need to add at least 1 additional tree on there, which I said so this was our proposed final landscape plan, but that letter came in just a couple weeks ago. So we're more than willing to add some additional landscape back there to appease those neighbors.
All right, that helps me as far as I've got a couple questions for Parker then.
So Mayor, if I may, thanks, Jared. Good proposal. These are all rental units?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Councilman Bruner.
And you may have been in here, maybe I missed it. I realize there are different sizes, so just if you can explain the approximate rental prices for these, for the different square footage?
Very good. So I'll go back to on that. And I don't have the exact numbers on those, so those will be still to be determined depending on the market, obviously, at that time. But the differing, the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, obviously going to be the higher ones with the 1-bedroom, 1-bath. So with the variety mix there, obviously it provides for different families' environments, how many kids they have, but it also provides for different price breaks for them in that, so that we can have, the differing in that. And then also the question about or if there's a question about ownership. So the intent is for them to be fully owned as one entity, so not to sell them off individually. I know they are, as with the proposal with the subdivision, they would be individual lots, but the proposal at this time is to maintain one ownership for all of the 18 lots. And then there would be a sister company that would maintain all of the grounds, the landscaping, the upkeep would be one entity as well. And if in the future, if it does change and say they do want to sell off some of those different parcels as individual ownerships, the single ownership of the HOA or the owners association to maintain the grounds would always remain in one single ownership to ensure that we can maintain the grounds.
Mayor, if I may, are you going to have a management person on site?
Madam Mayor, Councilman Bruner.
Yeah, you don't need to be formal, would be just.
Okay, very good. So there will be not living on site, but definitely it'll be a management company in the area to oversee that and take care of any issues as they arose.
And Mayor, my main concern, I realize these are I do not like just open parking, and I'm not expecting garages, but I would want to have some type of covered parking. I just don't like cars strewn everywhere and so on. So I'm going to struggle unless I realize that's cost and for anything, but I would want to have at least some type of covered parking for these folks.
Very good. And if I may propose a question to you on that, so I guess the thing would be the percentage. I mean, are you looking at a certain percentage number?
Well, I know. Well, I'm looking at least for every unit, there'd be at least one covered parking space.
Okay.
Is that, and maybe you cannot respond to that, but is that something that you feel like, Corey, as far as the Bartons, I mean, is that something they would be willing to consider?
I don't foresee any issues on that. I can double check for sure.
Okay, so I would want that in the development agreement for me to vote on this.
Okay.
Thanks.
Are there any further questions? You know the ropes here, so we will have you come back after public hearing and to finish up and to wrap and answer any further questions.
Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you
Mayor.
so much. Okay, Parker, thank you, on tonight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the request is annexation zoning to RD. The history, September, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with all the conditions in the staff report. The surrounding is the Heartland subdivision to the north and east, and then the rest is in the county. There's a single-family home that sits in the middle of this development, and that's going to remain. The services are all available, have adequate capacity. The regulations for annexation are in the staff report. It needs to match the comprehensive plan, be contiguous. As far as correspondence, the Nampa Parks requests a 20-foot easement along the north side of the drain for a pathway. And that's in the conditions presented in the staff report. The code compliance has a case open for weeds, and that'll be taken care of with development. The Canyon Highway District submitted a letter with some recommendations, and some things they suggest is to reduce the number of approaches on north side, relocating the driveway for the existing home, requiring the applicant purchase right of way to make contiguous frontage improvements, and then to review some of the internal circulation. As the applicant stated, there was a public comment that was received after the Planning and Zoning Commission decision. Some of the things discussed in that letter are compatibility, home values, density, fencing, noise abatement, landscaping, and drainage. And that letter was submitted in the staff report for you. I won't go through all of the engineering comments. There's going to be some dedication of right-of-way along north side and U-stick, as well as the intersection there for the city planned roundabout in the future. That the development does not meet the threshold for a full impact study. However, the developer is consulted to prepare a turn lane analysis for the accesses. Study concluded turn lanes were not warranted at either north side boulevard accesses. The land uses in the area consist of RS7 subdivisions with 2 county parcels that will be developed in the future, pending those approval. The design review will be required with this development. The RD zoning fits within the medium density residential designation. The proposed gross density for this development is 7.57, and the medium density residential has a range of 2.5 to 8, so that meets that requirement. Safe routes to school, Ridgeview High School is 1.3 miles, Sage Valley Middle School is 1.7, and then East Canyon Elementary is 0.4 miles away. The compass analysis points out that the more jobs are needed in the area. Regarding the plat, because the development is slated for the RD zone, the smallest buildable lot would need to be 14,000 square feet for a fourplex, and this meets that requirement by 10 square feet, being the smallest lot. The at lot averaging, lot compatibility are exempt for RD zoning. The landscaping plan was reviewed by the city forester and no corrections were requested. The open space proposed is 18%. As was pointed out by the applicant, there's one central open space playground. The rest are subdivided into different lots, but there's also a section to the southeast that we pointed out. The parking requirement is 2 per unit, and this exceeds that. So the parking is sufficient to meet the code. The conditions are in the staff report, as well as any that you would like to add. And there is a potential motion. Planning and zoning approved this subdivision. This was before we are changing code to have subdivision and zoning go together. So this will probably be the last one that's separated. And I will stand for any questions.
Mayor, I need some clarification. So the approving of this says duplex. Are these not fourplexes?
The RD zone it's 2-family residential duplex. It is fourplexes.
So
the zoning allows.
So
for
we're talking
fourplexes.
about four families per unit, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so 72 potential families.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess I'm still not understanding why we have duplex in parentheses there.
Councilman, it's just the title of the zone.
Okay.
There's unfortunately, that title is including the word duplex on there. Doesn't mean that you can't do a single family. You can do up to a fourplex.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, I realize developers, that they figure that out real quick, but I would think that'd be confusing from just a, the other thing, Mayor, if I may, I've talked to Daniel and Jeff earlier tonight, but I realize there's not a need for an impact study for traffic. But to anyone that's driven out in that area, we have an industrial park going out there. The county is building subdivisions galore out there. So I know, I think I've read in here a roundabout, Councilman Haverfield, between 2023 and 2029.
He lives out there somewhere.
But anyway, I realize nothing regarding this, but there is a need, going to be a need sooner than later for consideration, and hopefully the Highway Department and so on can partner with us on that. But anyway, just wanted to put that in there. Thanks.
Mayor Cleek.
Yes.
Parker, I'm going to agree with Councilman Bruner here because of the traffic issue. And you said that there was not sufficient traffic for a turn lane. And I, Becker, to differ with you. With this amount of growth in the north side, plus with this subdivision itself, is that something that we should be looking at, other than just fitting the requirements set forth?
Mayor and Councilman, that will probably be a question for Daniel.
Okay.
Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, there are set quantitative standards for when a turn lane is warranted at a drive approach and access. And so as part of our traffic impact study requirements, we do have thresholds where they are required to look at the approaches, if they're under 100 vehicle trips per day, which this one does fall under. Over that, they're required to do a full traffic study that looks at the actual intersection. So based on those quantitative traffic generations and the existing traffic volumes on that roadway, this does not warrant turn lanes at these approaches at this point. There are other developments in the area that may, with their traffic impact studies, trigger improvements, but at this time for this project, it does not warrant it.
Well, that's my concern, is that 10 years from or 5 years from now, it's going to be wall-to-wall traffic up and down. So I'm even thinking about maybe having an off-street turn lane. Would that be sufficient? And that would be for the northbound.
Mayor and Councilman Rodriguez, there is, I guess, the way that our policies and codes are set up, they are required to mitigate their traffic at the point that they come in, as well as their analysis looking out X number of years to the horizon year. Based on the analysis on this one, those are not warranted within that time frame, and so our policies would not require those to be done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Mayor?
Yes.
Daniel, follow up, please. So I am going to segue off of Councilman Rodriguez. So I understand what you're saying as far as how it affects that certain project. And so when you're talking about the policies, is that something we've set as a council, or is that the state policy, Compass policy? How does that work?
Those are policies, Mayor Kling and Councilman Levi, those are policies that are city-adopted policies within our development manuals.
My concern is, and again, I believe Councilman Rodriguez and I are sharing the same concern, and I think Councilman Bruner, is when we look at a development coming in, I can understand looking at the impact. For instance, this one says about approximately 211 residents. And so you think about how many cars that would be, how many trips. But to isolate it to that one area, when there is development all around, it's not just any longer just that one area. And to go with, again, what Councilman Rodriguez was saying, in 5 years, who's going to have to foot that bill when we could be having that done now? Because are we adequately planning for that growth?
Mayor, Councilman Levi, that is what our impact fees look at, is the growth-related improvements that we need. Ideally, we are collecting the impact fees that are necessary to provide for those growth-related items that need to be done now and in the future. And so these properties, they pay those impact fees. As we update our capital improvement plan, additional properties that come in pay those impact fees, and then those impact fees go into doing those improvements when they're needed, not necessarily, the impact fees allow us to build those projects when they're needed, not necessarily to have them done before they're needed.
I appreciate that, and I think maybe that's something we can revisit as a council if we have the authority to be doing that with the impact fee allowances, because one thing affects another. And to isolate a project and not look at, there are 4 other projects feeding into that area of traffic, that just doesn't seem right, especially planning for growth, but also strapping our taxpayers down the road. So, thank you.
And Mayor and Councilman Levi, those other projects that are happening in the area, most of them are large enough that they are doing traffic impact studies. They are identifying their mitigations as well that will be required for those. A number of, based on the impact fee analysis, or not the impact fee, the traffic study analysis that have been done out there, the intersection improvements at that location are background traffic, so they are things that are needed even without the developments happening. And so those are not something that, with our impact fee ordinance and the policies that we have, that we can require them to build things that are not directly caused by them. If it was caused by something, by development prior to them coming in there, they're not obligated to mitigate something that is not theirs. If the city has not improved that intersection at this point, and it's already to a point that the background traffic has it at a level of service that we deem our impact fee not so a level of service D, then those developments are not required to mitigate that. Todd, you can correct me if I'm misstating that at all. And so that's the way that the impact fee statutes are set up with the state, and the policies that we have in our ordinances follow that state statute.
Thank you.
Mayor, Daniel,
Yes.
before you leave, have you looked at the cross alignments? We have no cross alignment issues with development on the west side of, what is that, north side? Or is this
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, there is a proposed development on the west side of North Side. The
North side.
yeah, their approach location lines up with the approach location on the west side, and so there are no cross alignment issues there.
Okay, so which, we've got two accesses onto this one. The separation is adequate between the two?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, yes, they are.
And then the one that'll be a major cross alignment will be which one? The one furthest north?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, both of their approaches align with the approaches proposed on the other side of the street.
So my last question is, where are the city limits now in conjunction with this property?
The city limits, do you have that on here, Parker? The current city limits are the yellow there, so it's bordering on the north and west, or north and east.
So Heartland subdivision, that's the one on the east?
Correct.
Okay. And the size of those lots, what is the zoning currently on that property to the east?
Those properties are zoned RS7, but if we're getting back into that, I'll go back to Parker.
Okay, thanks. So that's RS7 to the north and to the east?
Correct.
So compatibility of those single-family lots, the size compared to these fourplex lots, Has there been much concern voiced by the neighbors? North and east?
Councilman, the letter that was submitted, and I believe she's on Teams tonight, and she can voice her concerns to you.
Does she
But
speak
she's
for
the only
herself?
one.
Okay, so there isn't a consolidated group of people that are concerned about this development?
Just the letter that we received from the one public comment, yeah.
And then the fact that this is a commercial development with fourplexes, the fourplex lots, they're not going to be developing duplex lots per Councilman Bruner's thoughts through the separating with a zero lot line between the units. They're going to be fourplexes with a lot just for the fourplex then.
Councilman, correct. So the lot lines you can see here, each building is on its own lot.
It's kind of small in the packet, so.
Yeah, it's 4 units on one lot.
And the lots, those lot sizes are 14,000 square feet? Is that
They
what-
exceed. So the smallest of those lots is 14,010 square feet.
Thanks.
Yes.
Parker, on the fiscal analysis, I just don't think I understand real estate. Why does the value bounce where the smaller are sometimes, well, I don't know. What page am I on? 304. I'm looking like 1,500 square feet. The fiscal analysis is 3,075, where 1,600 square feet is 288. And 2,500 square feet is 262. Oh, sorry, Rodney.
So it kind of comes down to remind me the numbers again. Can you tell me those numbers?
Let me give you an example. 1,400 square feet is 287, whereas 2,500 square feet is 262.5.
Yeah. It is kind of complex, but it depends on the size of the home and how many people they expect to live in it. And so sometimes there's, I wish Ozzy were here to describe this, but he described that same question that I had to me, and he said, there's a point at which you have less people living in a little bit larger home. And so because of that decrease, it fluctuates the value to the city because maybe you don't have the same amount of services being provided to that property. So it's kind of all over the place, but it's more complex than I have the ability to follow. But Ozzy walked me through it, and I was confident in his ability to explain that.
It's really too complex for me, too.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Councilman? Yes.
Thank you. So along the line, if I might, I will come back to you in a moment, Parker, but Rodney, I was going to ask also about the fiscal analysis and kind of what that meant to us. And so I'm looking at that, and I'm assuming, is that what the developer takes into account when they're setting prices for these duplexes?
I would have to defer to a developer there, but I don't think that I don't think that they're pricing it based on an expectation of our approval or denial. I think it's more it's market driven, right? That value, that they're pricing out the homes. However, they could put a certain amount on here in their application and tell us that amount is what they expect, and we have no way to track what exactly that ultimate number will be. Because as the market changes, they're going to change their prices for their homes. And so maybe it's a year, 2 years down the road before they put this property on the market, and that could be drastically different. So at this point, we're basing it only on the information we have at this exact time.
Thank you. Well, the basis of my question is, I hear from our community, we need affordable housing, affordable housing. I want a very nice, beautiful project, and I don't believe we just build residential to build residential, but the thing when I see these numbers that concerns me is we are just building and approving residential for the sake of it, but not that people can actually afford to live in. So that was the basis of my question to you. So thank you for answering that. So Parker, I do have a question on the same page that Councilwoman Mucci pointed to. talking about medium-density residential. And it says that these units will be highly compatible with adjoining properties. High-density development is not allowed in this land use. So what defines high density? Because, I mean, 72 units, that's kind of a lot.
Councilwoman, that section is from our comprehensive plan. So in the medium density, that's really defined by the density in that zone. So the gross density and medium density is 2.5 to 7. So generally anything above 7 dwelling units an acre would be high density.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Kling, sorry. I know we're asking a lot of questions. Doug, this might be for you. But that fiscal analysis, wasn't that based on the impact of HB 389? Isn't that why Ozzy did some of that work, or is that completely different?
He actually began the work prior to House Bill 389, and it was to provide a response to the growth and the concern of our citizens and the cost of growth to ensure that growth funded itself based on the property taxes generated from the project.
And so this fiscal analysis is current with the impact of HB 389 then? Or it's still market
That's
driven?
correct. Yeah, they included House Bill 389 estimates in the fiscal impact analysis, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Parker at this time? There may be more, Parker, so thank you. So if there are no other questions at this time, we will go ahead and open up for public testimony. And we have 2 people signed up, and I believe we do we have someone online?
Carol is online.
Okay. Hi, Carol. Hi, go ahead and unmute. I can't see if you're muted or unmuted, and go ahead and state your name and address. Thank you.
My name is Carol Flaherty, and I do not currently have an address in Nampa. I have 3 homes that are being built in Heartland. So they're in the process of construction right now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, and thank you so much for asking.
Should I continue my comments now?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
So my homes are in the $720,000 to $760,000 range. That is what we are talking about with these 4plexes abutting the Heartland subdivision. I own 1 property that is directly on Flott's Way to the eastern side of Wood Poppy, and our property will immediately back to these 4plexes. I own 2 on Orchid, and they will be 1 house and 3 houses away from Wood Poppy. Needless to say, I was quite surprised to receive the letter from Nampa about the hearing that was scheduled for November the 1st, which caused my first letter. I had no idea about Wood Poppy until that letter came. And to then learn that my $720,000 home was going to back to a 4plex has not left me with any feeling of satisfaction. So first of all, why haven't you had more comment? Because Heartland is not sold yet to the end users. We happen to be the exception. Only developers are in there now. Very few houses have sold. I think that the property owners, when they discover that they have bought a home that is back into these 4plexes, which will probably not be built by the time they buy their houses and move in, I think they're going to be quite surprised. But I realize that I can probably not stop this subdivision. So what can we do to minimize the impact? There are 2 areas. One Jerem has talked about, and that is the landscaping. And I find 1 tree, albeit 10 feet tall, at the back of my property to be totally inadequate landscape shielding. Those trees are important for 2 reasons. One is noise abatement, and secondly is to shield from visibility. So these homes that are on the perimeter of Wood Poppy will basically have an unusable backyard unless you are happy with 4plexes looming down on top of you. I am not. I told Jerem that I consider anything less than 4 trees along that perimeter that would be 10 feet tall to be unacceptable. I'm also concerned about drainage. With 162 parking places, that's a lot of asphalt and a lot of impervious area. So I think it's very important the grading be away from the perimeter and that adequate tubes be put in to make sure that there is no water that drains over into the adjacent properties. The third area I have a concern with is the fencing, and I understand from planning and zoning that the city has a 6-foot restriction on the height of the fence. I think that's fine on single-family homes that abut to each other, but I do not think that is adequate when you have fourplexes, 2-story fourplexes looking down on 1-story homes, especially in the price range we're talking about. And I would encourage Nampa to consider perhaps a waiver to that 6-foot height and allow for 8 feet, which would be more appropriate when you have multi-story fourplexes or apartment buildings or multi-story commercial properties. And with that, I will end my comment.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Okay, and I think we have someone else signed up to testify.
Brian Person?
Good evening. Thank you for joining us and for sharing your address as you come forward.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I suspect this microphone is way too low.
You may adjust it. I think you might be right.
Or I'm way too high.
I don't think you can do anything about your height.
No.
So you can pull that up, yeah.
Is that working okay?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Brian Pearson. I'm at 17754 Polera Way in Northside Estates, just south of this proposed new development. So my comments tonight are mostly centered around the cumulative effects of this and several other proposed subdivisions along that Northside Road corridor. I know my time is limited, so I'll focus on 2 aspects of infrastructure and services that I think are just getting run over. So by quick count, and this won't be comprehensive, but these are the ones I know about. So Wood Poppy, 72 units. Valenta, you're going to talk about next. I think 100 single, 15 duplexes. Magnolia, 38 single, 14 fourplexes. Spring Hollow Ranch, 66. Heartland already has 160. There's a few more. You might not know that Canyon County, about a mile north of you, has public hearing signs out for 48 units there, about a mile north. So within a mile of the intersection of Northside and Ustick, there are 627 and counting residences going in. It seems to be elusive. I brought this up at the planning and zoning hearing, but there's a 2017 traffic study that was that staff commissioned, that Thompson engineers put together for Heartland. And I'll just paraphrase one aspect of that study. One study area intersection exceeds the city of Nampa's minimum operational thresholds with existing traffic conditions, and that is Northside Boulevard and Ustick. It says it needs a traffic signal, it needs a left turn lane on all approaches, but it says don't fear, because the Ustick Road and Northside Boulevard intersection is identified in the City of Nampa citywide transportation plan to be signalized with turn lanes by 2020. That couldn't be located during planning and zoning. It came off y'all's website, so I've got several copies of that planning study, and I've got that statement by Thompson earmarked here in case that's helpful. So the transportation study, the same one I mentioned, used the generally recognized ITE trip generation manual, 9.52 trips per day per residence. So if you take that 627, that's 5,972 trips per day, many of them using that intersection, on an intersection that didn't meet standards 4 years ago. I'm trying to go fast here. And then that doesn't count the homes, or the residences and traffic that's coming east from the Midland Road corridor, where I think there are 760 new homes I've counted in there. And I also add, you don't really need a traffic study to tell you that there's an issue. Just try driving west on Ustick between Meridian and Nampa some night. The school, yeah, Ridgeview High School is about 1.3 miles away. I talked to the registration office, the attendance office. In 2018, there were 1,286 students. In 2021, 1,650. That's a 3-year gain of 28.3%. That's an annualized increase of 8.7%. If that continues and they're at capacity, there's 299 students in 2 years with no place to sit. So it's not just a school building close by. There's nowhere for them to sit. want to be really courteous with this point. It was suggested when I testified at the hearing for the industrial development that since we're outside the city and don't pay taxes, maybe our comments don't count. I have my tax statement here. This year, our household paid $1,892 to Napa City Urban Renewal and $476 to Napa Fire. So I'm hoping our comments can count. Okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anyone else signed up?
That's it.
Is there anyone that had intended to testify this evening that did not have opportunity to do so? Okay, seeing none, this is an opportunity for Jerem, for you to come back and provide any additional comments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate that opportunity, and I do appreciate the comments and the testimony that was given from the neighbors. So just kind of to touch on, we'll jump on Councilman Bruner. So yes, if there was a condition requiring one covered parking spot per unit, that would be more than acceptable.
Mayor, when we say unit, we're talking about then one per unit, so it'd be 4 covered.
Four per fourplex, yes.
And
that is
I'll have
correct.
some questions. Go ahead and respond. I do have a couple questions for you later. Thank you, sir.
And then I know a lot of the issues seem to revolve around traffic, and we understand Brian's concerns and understand, that it is a change, if you've been out in the area, and even now that there already is traffic there now. And so as new development continues to come, you're going to see an increase in that traffic. The traffic that is generated from, and the majority of that out there is single-family dwellings, and the ITE, Institute of Transportation or Traffic Engineers, Daniel can correct me on which word goes there, 9.5 trips per day is for a single-family home. Multifamily does generate less trips per day. It's more around the 6.5 trips per day for a multifamily home, because those trips include, post office. When the mailman comes, it includes garbage trucks and all of those things. So when you have a multifamily, it does actually reduce the number of trips per unit. You have more units, but the overall average per unit is less than a single family in that regards. And maybe just kind of touching, and this is just my take on, I know there's some questions about the value from the analysis, the fiscal analysis. And I kind of see it as perhaps like a diminishing return. And then also of a city value versus a market value. For a city value, when you're looking at, say, one unit, one bedroom unit with one bathroom, even though the value from a market standpoint is going to be less than a 3-bedroom and 2-bathroom unit, from a city standpoint, it may be the opposite, because in a 1-bedroom bath, you're only going to have most likely 1, maybe 2 people living there, which means the amount of services you're providing to that family and to that person living there is going to be much less than a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, which probably has 3 or 4 kids, which is going to schools and utilizing those other services, more likely to utilize fire and police services on that. So there could be that could be that reason for that shift, is how I would see it, that diminishing return in regards to, again, city value versus market value, as we know, is often very different in that regard. So that's kind of where I'd see that focus on that. But again, and in regards to the traffic too, we would defer, we don't want to be a burden to the city of Nampa, to the residents in this area. We want to be something that Nampa can be proud of and can provide to the citizens a needed niche, I guess you could say, or needed housing out in this area. And so in regards to the traffic, I know there's talk about, a turn lane being warranted or required out there just to make sure that traffic is flowing. And we would defer on that to the traffic experts, to Daniel and his team and the other traffic engineers to determine, what was appropriate for that area. Because sometimes you can overbuild in regards to traffic, and it actually becomes more dangerous. I think traffic lights are a great example. Most people realize that, or think that, the more traffic lights you put up, the safer a corridor becomes. But there's studies that show for each traffic light you put up, you're going to have increased car accidents, increased deaths, all of that, because of the number of lights. And you miss a light, you miss a turn. So even though it may seem that it's safer to put more lights up or more turn lanes, it can actually diminish those sometimes. Same with crosswalks at schools. I know when I was the planner at Caldwell, I always get calls all the time saying, can we not add more crosswalks to this school area because it's unsafe for the kids? And it was difficult to try to convince them to saying that if you actually add too many, it diminishes those safeties, because people they see them and they're like, oh, there's another one here and another one there, and they just start to ignore them. And so that's where we would defer to the traffic experts. And if they feel that turn lane is warranted, then we'd have no issues on that if they feel that's going to increase the safety on that. But we would caution and just say if we could rely on the experts that deal with that day in and day out and go off of whatever their recommendations are in that regards. And again, just, we want to be good neighbors. We feel this would be a good fit for this area. It's growing tremendously. We're at the crossroads of two arterial streets. As obviously we've been talking about traffic, but that's a lot of the areas we want to have this type of development. And there is more development coming. And obviously, as mentioned, we're going to be talking about more of this just right after this. So just appreciate the opportunity to present this and stand for any questions you might have.
Mayor, if I may, what is the height of your fourplexes? What's the highest roof line?
So those would be just, if I'm not mistaken, just under 30 feet.
And do you know, as far as the houses, and I know our fine lady that spoke earlier, she seemed very, very able as far as in educated on it, but do you know what the height of those houses are?
I would imagine, and again, I'm not certain looking at that, but typically a single family, whether it's a single level or two level, are usually around 20 to 25 feet in height.
So you would agree with her that these folks will be looking down at these properties?
From the top, if you're on that second floor, then yes, most likely you would be on that. So similar to like if you had a two-story on the other side, you'd be looking down or across at the other.
So I guess I am concerned with that also. So, and there again, I understand, as far as quantity is dollars and units. So as far as duplexes, one story, has that been considered at all, rather than having fourplexes being 30 foot high?
That has not, Madam Mayor, Councilman Brewer, that has not been considered in regards to that. We feel that the fourplex is a good fit for that area. It's a totally different world. Duplexes go into the residential code, so you're not having fire sprinklers, you're not having all of those things that you would get with the fourplex, because it does fall into the commercial code once you get above.
And I'm concerned being a good neighbor, but, there again, I'm putting my bias in there, but if I had a home, a $720,000 home, and I had folks renting and looking down at me for my barbecues and so on, I probably would not be a happy camper. And I don't want to assume, but I have a feeling that you may not be either. Okay.
Yeah. So, and kind of in regards to that too, so we talked about the separation between them. So on our side, you got 20 to 25 feet, and on their side, you've got, if I'm not mistaken, and they can correct me, I believe you have a 20-foot setback over there as well. So there will be approximately 50 feet separation between the housing units themselves. So, because you've got that, the setbacks on both sides. So you do have the 45 to 50 feet of separation. The trees, and obviously we can add more trees back there if they want that visual separation, for the noise also, if they feel that would be appropriate in that regard. So we're more than willing to add those conditions in there.
Are there any other questions or discussion? Okay, so no other questions for the applicant? Yeah, okay, thank you. So that would mean we will stand for motion to close public hearing, but we won't be able to go back. Okay, so we're good with that? Okay, Jerem, thank you so much. Thank you for answering the questions. I would stand for motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, council. My question, and this is really as much for staff as anything, is putting fourplexes in the midst of single family and the adjoining property. So this fits within medium density, but most of the time we're saying you've got an RS6, or you're saying, are you going RS6 next to a RS 8.5? And while it's a good project, the question and the comment about going with possibly a townhouse, a single level, and there is a need for some smaller units, but I just am wondering about putting such fourplexes in the midst of single family. So I don't normally say anything, but I will say that.
Mayor, I'll make the motion. I'm going to deny this and make the motion. I think it's a great project as far as what they're wanting to do, but I do not think that this is the right area for this, so I will deny the annexation and zoning to RD on this project.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Seeing none? Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call.
Machi?
No.
Bauer? Haverfield?
Just for the fun of it, I'll say no to.
Levi?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Brunner?
Yes.
Whoops.
Just for the fun of it, which is not the way we should vote, I will say that. Because it is not for the fun of it, it's a serious discussion when we're talking about doing this. So for me, I will say that I so respect developers and the work that is done and the investment, because I don't take it lightly. And I know, Jeremy, you've been on both sides of this, so yes, I'm looking at you and you're representing someone else. For the developer that came in, I appreciate the work that was done. And I am concerned, though, and I believe I'm going to support the motion. I would ask that the developer come back and consider possibly, instead of a fourplex, a townhome environment. We need it. But going from single-family homes and the two-story and looking into the backyards of others, I think I've got to give consideration to that and our homeowners locally, especially the investment of those homes. So I think the compatibility, for me, it's the compatibility between a fourplex and single family. It's totally surrounded by single family, and then you also have the density and the traffic issue. The traffic issue is going to happen. It is going to happen, but I am concerned, and I really appreciated the testimony there on the traffic issues. But from a compatibility standpoint, I feel like a fourplex next to our single family is not what I question that. And so with that, I'm going to vote yes, which is to deny the fourplexes coming in. And excuse me I didn't mean to chastise council, because it's a serious thing, and I know they want me, it puts me in an awkward, but I'm not afraid to be in an awkward spot and say where I am. Now, is there a concern over?
Mayor, I just wanted to point out a couple of things if depending on how you want to take this. The next application is reliant upon this one being annexed to be into the city, to have a path of annexation. So the applicant is hoping that this could be annexed with conditions, that it be brought back, however you want to see that, and that that allows the next application to come in. Otherwise, they will need to have the next one continued for a significant amount of time as they go back through the process. So I'm not suggesting a certain direction. I'm just saying that that's the concern.
So let me ask you a question, just for clarity. This annexation is to two-family residential duplex, to RD residential. Currently, in our future land use map, it is scheduled to be, is it multi? What exactly is it currently in our master plan?
Do you want to go back on that slide?
Medium.
Yeah,
It's medium density residential.
Right.
So, and why not go to medium density residential? Let's go back to that.
So remember, just clarification, a medium density residential includes kind of a range of densities. And the highest density you can go is the RD density in the medium density designation. So I shouldn't say high density, because it is still medium density according to our comprehensive plan. But it's at the top range of density in the medium density designation.
The RD zoning is.
Correct.
the highest.
And you can have an RD zone go into the high density designation on our comp plan with higher densities than what is being proposed here. So they still meet the maximum density for the RD zone to fall within the medium density residential designation on the comp plan.
So why not go in at medium density then?
It is going in.
Okay, but we're talking annexation into RD zoning district.
Correct. And the RD zone does fit within the medium-density residential designation on our
Okay,
comprehensive plan.
so it's within that.
It is.
It's, okay.
At these densities, it is within that.
Okay, I thank you for speaking up. I really appreciate it
Yeah.
because I think the question then, as far as discussion with the council is, do we really want to deny annexation or are we not approving the level of density that's being recommended?
Mayor, I'm happy to change my motion.
Mayor, just for the sake of, did you vote in favor? So it
We
hasn't been
haven't voted yet.
So you haven't voted yet?
We have not done roll call. I said that I would not support it, and then they've come back to say, maybe we need to look at how we frame this, because if we deny it. Now, we can go ahead and do roll call.
Mayor, we've done roll call.
I'm sorry, did we do roll call? Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
broke the tie.
I'm sorry. I knew I was going to, I just didn't remember that we pulled roll call.
So
You did it. I'm sorry. That's totally my mistake in all the discussion, so.
I guess Mayor, I need some, at least I need some legal, and
Yeah.
Todd can provide. I have no problem with this being annexed for the next
Oh, that's right,
development
we
to be
did.
contiguous, be able to be contiguous to this. But I'm not going to, there's got to be conditions and come back with a new plot plan, okay?
And you could put, as part of this annexation, you could require a development agreement come back to you with your approval. You could move forward with the
That's
annexation.
the annexation
Correct,
section. Is
but have the development agreement come back.
Okay, and so I will, Todd, you tell me what we can do. Okay.
So the council's voted. I'm not sure if the mayor has cast her vote yet.
Yes, she did.
I said how I was going to cast my vote. Did I actually cast it, or was I still talking about how I was going to cast it? So that is the technicality, and I'm so sorry because I'm thinking, where were we in discussion or in roll call? Because I did say I was going to support it, which could be considered the vote.
Mayor, I think really your intent from your statements is really the most important thing, that you were going to support it. I don't know that from your perspective, if you haven't cast your vote yet, that sounds like how you would be voting, but I think you have opportunity to say that's, in thinking about it some more, I haven't cast my vote yet, and my vote is X or Y. So if you feel like you haven't cast your vote yet, you were talking about how you were inclined to vote, there's some more comments. It sounds to me like you have the ability to still say, here's, my vote is this.
And then allow council to come forward with a new motion.
Correct.
Okay.
Mayor, I guess there again, my hearing was that my vote is yes, so it was cast. So if we play this back from a citizen standpoint, and that was said in that manner, my vote is yes. So what can happen if that is the case?
So if the vote is yes, then I think your decision is essentially made to deny.
So we can't come back and make another motion as far as just the annexation being approved and then a new development agreement?
I suppose what could happen would be a request for reconsideration, and that can be made, and then have the council reconsider its motion.
I'll make a motion for reconsideration.
I'm sorry, Darrell.
Oh, you're not done?
Bruner. No, that would
It would be
that would come from
the applicant would need to come
I
forward
see.
with.
I'm just trying to help Jaren here now.
Sure.
All of a sudden, see, I changed.
I appreciate that. What would happen there is the decision would be provided to the applicant, then they have the opportunity to request reconsideration, which would bring it back before this body on that reconsideration. What that then does is have another opportunity for public to comment. It's a new hearing and a new decision on that reconsideration. Where's Rodney?
So
Am I describing that correctly from your perspective as well?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
So Mayor Todd, so I guess these two with the next public hearing then. So if this is for if he, Jaren requests reconsideration, then this next public hearing would not be able to be heard at this point in time till that reconsideration was heard?
Well, whether or not he asks for reconsideration, the next public hearing cannot be heard because their path to annexation was not achieved. That would have been good for staff to have pointed that out before we voted, because that's important to a decision, because the issue at that point is annexation versus the actual land use and what we're saying. So because the motion was such that it denied the fourplexes, but we didn't necessarily, we would not necessarily have chosen to deny annexation.
It sounds like Todd is not sure that you denied it.
Yeah, can we play it back?
I think we need to.
Do we have instant replay? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if, because I mean, that's a big consideration. Did you say yes or
You don't
did
think
you
so?
not? And then that changes a whole bunch for the applicants tonight.
Huge, time-wise.
So with that, I think we would need to do a 5-minute recess so that we are no longer in session. This is a 5-minute recess to give us the opportunity to go back and re-listen. Would that be appropriate? Because any recording of council would be stopped while we're re-listening. Okay. So with that, then we're going to take a 5-minute recess. And then our mics should go on the off side. And then let's let legal listen, if you would, to the recording and tell me what you think. And have our team come back. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Okay, I think we're ready to resume, and thank you for the patience and a very interesting process when we want to do something right? So at this time, as we come back together, I would like to defer to legal counsel, Todd Lakey.
Madam Mayor and council members, as we went back, the vote was cast. There was some direction given, and that's part of typically what you look at on a land use, not so much on an annexation, but what the applicant could do to obtain approval. And there was a lot of comment about density, and if you want to give the applicant some additional direction, you could. What the applicant can do under our code is, once the decision's made, request reconsideration. And it would have the ability to tailor their annexation request with a development agreement acknowledging your comments. And then there would have to be a new preliminary plat in line with your annexation approval and development agreement related to the annexation, where you could limit density or types or, additional landscaping, those kind of things. But that there would be a new preliminary plat as a result of whatever your decision is in regard to their reconsideration.
Thank you very much. So with that, because of the clarification that the vote does stand, we will just ask that you please consider applying for reconsideration, and you can work with staff regarding that. And I think, Jeremy, you have a good idea of kind of what the thoughts are. So at that, and by the way, happy birthday. Gee, just what you want to do on your birthday. Yeah. Yes.
I do believe we should sing to him.
All right.
His son agrees.
Those that can carry a tune. please.
Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jerem. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Sorry. We're so sorry on your birthday to, yeah. Yes, and in the midst of all the work that you have ahead of you. So again, congratulations. I look forward to working with you as a fellow mayor. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes, I believe, our public hearing 6-1. Is that correct? We are done, right? Okay.
Mayor Clay?
Yes.
I just have a quick observation here. After we cast our votes and the mayor is speaking, why do we allow Rodney to come back up and talk? The hearing is closed. That probably should have been done prior to and let us know. But I understand we need to know. That I don't have a problem with. But I think, are we circumventing our process?
So, Madam Mayor and Councilmember Rodriguez, you do close the hearing. It's for public comment, but you also do allow staff to comment after the public hearing is closed. That kind of is procedurally your choice.
I would have liked to have known this prior to, not that it would have made any difference, but now where we could have changed the outcome and ready to modify our vote, ready to change our motion based on that information, I think that's wrong.
And Madam Mayor and Councilmember Rodriguez, as you consider your motions, perhaps maybe for future reference, you do have the ability to separate out your motion for annexation and development agreement from the preliminary plat or well, that's essentially what we're talking about in regard to the density and type here. So I think that's something to maybe keep in mind for the future as you look at these.
Okay, thank you.
And Mayor, I I should have thought of that, and then tell you the truth, it just skipped my mind that it was contiguous as far as onto this next public hearing, as far as where that could go. I guess the other thing, is there some reason why we, maybe in choosing public hearings, why this next public hearing wasn't before this one?
Because
Said
it
because
was
it's closer to the
contingent.
city.
No, actually, the second public hearing, if I understand correctly, cannot be considered until the first public hearing.
Because of the nothing, no city.
Correct. It has to be contiguous. So my understanding is item 6.2 on the agenda, as we open this public hearing, it will be continued to date uncertain. Is that correct? February 7th is
Like
the.
to continue to February 7th.
Okay, so, to date certain. So at this time, we will open item 6.2, which is an action item, annexation and zoning to RD zoning district for the Valenti subdivision at 0 Ustick Road. And this is a 37.72 acre parcel for Jerem Wagner and Trilogy representing Corey Barton, Endurance Holdings. So this particular one is contingent upon the prior one in that we've got a potential reconsideration on item 6.1. We will, do we need to have any staff report, or can I just open public hearing, continue this item actually, just say would like to continue this item to date certain of February the 2nd, 2022?
7th, February
7th, I'm sorry, I wrote down the 2nd.
So Mayor, I'm just questioning, how did we land on February 7th?
Because that's the the first city council meeting in February. And
Right,
that
then
gives
what's the reason-
them, that gives them enough time to get their reconsideration in
Okay, so
and
then,
their development agreement.
so they're in favor of this, and that,
Yes.
it's not where we are making them wait that long. then.
We've discussed this with them. And as a matter of fact, if they do come back with a development agreement that needs to go through the process, we won't make it in time for that, and we'll have to continue it again anyway. So,
Thank you, Christie.
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you for
Mayor.
having that discussion.
Mayor Christie,
Yes.
so will the modified plat go before P and Z again?
The whole thing, the development agreement with the new concept plan will have to go back
back
to
to
P and Z
P&Z.
and then to you and then on.
Even though they approved this, it still needs to go back to
Yeah,
them.
because no one has seen that concept plan yet. So if you're proposing a development agreement that has not been advertised or proposed at this point, we have to go back through the process.
And public notice will be made as well to the
Yes.
surrounding property owners.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so at this time, I would stand for a motion to continue action item 6.2 to a date certain of February 2nd, 2022. 7th. I'm sorry, I've got this like, So moved? And seconded. So it's been moved and seconded. And the date is February 7th. I'll get it there.
You made the motion, yeah, I second.
Is there any further discussion or any further questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
And Bauer?
Thank you. Let's see, the next one is Jane, but actually for Jerem, he would be able to leave and go home and enjoy the rest of your birthday. And your son, what's your name? Say that again? Bryler. It's nice to meet you, Bryler. Thank you for sitting here so well tonight. Yeah, your dad did a good job.
Your
Right,
dad's
take
okay,
care.
Okay?
Yeah. Good night. Okay, now we're going to move to item 6.3 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is annexation and zoning to BC for 4.5 acres, IL for 3.66 acres, and RMH for 16.15 acres, and RS6 for 22.09 acres, all located within 4 parcels. This is at 0 Ustick Road, and this is a potential development agreement for Trestle Creek subdivision to be subdivided at a future date, a mixed-use development including commercial, industrial, multifamily, single-family attached and detached, open space land uses. This is for Jane Suggs with Jim State Planning, representing Endurance Holdings again. So, go ahead and come forward, Jane, thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you, Mayor and council members, also staff and guests. Good evening. I'm Jane Suggs, Gem State Planning, 9839 Cable Car Street in Boise, representing Trestle Creek and Trilogy Development. We're busy tonight. And thank you again for working with Jerem on that last project too. We will be happy to bring something back that I think you'll appreciate. Let's talk about this particular Trestle Creek. This is just an annexation. Annexation and zoning for 46.45 acres. This is located on the south side of Eustic Road between Franklin and Prescott. And here we show in the blue the parcels that make up Trestle Creek. And I'm not calling it a subdivision yet because we're not submitting a plat. As you can see, Nampa really is growing in this direction. In fact, right now, I think Nampa is trying to extend the sewer down Eustic Road for this very reason, to provide sewer to the northeast part of Nampa. We are contiguous to the city limits, and this provides for orderly development of the city, and the requested zoning designations are consistent with your comprehensive plan. Let's take a look at that plan. You see here, this is a drawing showing the different colors for the different types of uses. The Nampa Comprehensive Plan designates this property as both residential mixed use and community mixed use. The residential mixed use is defined as residential housing such as single family, detached, multifamily, and some non-residential uses. The community mixed use, there's a little corner there. It should include some commercial uses, especially along major transportation corridors with easy access. And of course, we're right on Eustic Road. This use also encourages some higher density to housing. Trestle Creek will actually provide a very good mix of both residential and non-residential uses. So let's take a look at how we're planning to segment this out into different zoning designations. And here it kind of looks like a plat, but all you are approving now are the different zoning designations, but this does give you an idea of what could be built in those. We are requesting that 4.5 acres in the northeast corner be zoned community business, that's the BC zone. This area is located along Eustic Road and will be adjacent to an entry street. We want to make sure that if you have commercial uses, you have great access. The light industrial will be 3.66 acres in the northwest corner of the property. This zone covers, there's an existing landscape business there, so we wanted to make sure they were given a zone that matched their business plan. These non-residential uses will of course be supported by a good mix of single-family and multifamily homes in the rest of the development. You'll see that we have single-family homes covering about 22 acres. And you'll notice that we put the single-family homes, this is the RS6 zone, so we will do the lot averaging, but all of those larger lots are located around the perimeter so that we have good compatibility with people in Meriwether to the south, but also the potential on the east and the west. And then we have fourplexes and townhomes that are located kind of along Eustic Road because it's a busy street, and also kind of in the interior of the site. We think that's appropriate to put that more dense development in the interior. Again, we think these proposed uses are in harmony with the city's comprehensive plan and are compatible with existing land uses, and like I said, compatible with future land uses if those future land uses follow the comp plan. In our application package, you'll see that we did include legal descriptions of the various zones and a draft development agreement. And we sent a courtesy letter to our neighbors to let them know about the plan to annex. We are requesting only annexation at this time. Our preliminary plat will actually be designed to meet your new zoning requirements. So not only for lot sizes, but for the open space. So what we did is we come in with an annexation now, waiting for your changes. When you see the preliminary plat, it will match the new code, and especially the open spaces. And we do agree with all the conditions of approval that are in the staff report. And I believe that's really all I have to add. We do respectfully request your approval of Trestle Creek annexation, zoning, and the development agreement draft. And I'll stand for questions.
Thank you.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Jane, so the IL zone, will it have access through the multifamily, the RMH property?
Actually, it just has driveways onto Ustick Road because it's industrial and you wouldn't want the industrial traffic coming through the residential portion.
It was hard to, it looked like there was the
There-
connectivity.
There is a street that we had preliminarily, again, this is because we're not approving a plat. This is point. Okay, so where the fourplexes are, the 3 fourplexes down a little bit. So there's a street there that we were sort of thinking would be something that could separate that use. But again, we're not approving the plat. If you want to include a provision that there be some connectivity between the IL and the residential, we could add that to the development agreement. But right now, we were kind of showing a street that could be there, a half a street anyway. So
Are you seeking a development agreement as well tonight?
development agreement that goes with the annexation.
Just the
and
annexation?
And, yeah.
So we would need to spell out if we wanted to limit access from the IL into the residential.
If you would like to do that, limit it or provide some connectivity, that would be something that, like I said, we're showing a half a street if we want to do that. We wouldn't want a street to go necessarily through, like the fourplexes that show a driveway. I wouldn't want the IL uses to use that driveway through the fourplexes. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But maybe since that is a stub street that goes to the west, there might be an opportunity to put a street there and just as
Talking
shown.
about to the south of the IL zone?
To the south of the IL zone,
So
yeah.
you could have access there, but not to the east through the other residential?
Yes, yeah. We would consider that. And as, like I said, this was sort of a plan, but we wanted to wait until we had all of your new code before we came back with our preliminary plat. So it looks like a plat, but it could be reconfigured. And we can make sure we can add that if you would like that, or take it out if you would like there not to be connection.
We can cover that with staff when they speak, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I have another question. What is anticipated beyond your landscaping? Was the IL zone just for that one business, or is it a broader area than that?
Just for that business for us.
Just the one?
Yeah,
Okay.
because there's already a business there, and we did purchase the south portion of their property, so it is included in our rezone for the residential, but they wanted to keep that business and keep that opportunity to keep the business, which wouldn't be allowed in most of your residential zones. So we wanted to give them the IL designation, and that fits in really well with your mixed use. So we have commercial, we have industrial, we have multifamily, we have single family. And we think that's really getting at what you're looking for a mixed-use project.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
What's the name of the business in the IL zone?
I don't know.
Trying to locate who that is in my mind.
Right. It is a, they have equipment and they do, it's not a retail center. It's a landscaping business. And I'm sorry, I do not know the name. I'd have to look it up.
Okay, yeah, then that places it for me then.
I'm sorry?
I know where it's at now,
Yeah.
in my mind. We did a development just to the west.
Oh, right.
That's abutting that.
Yeah, further to the west, I think along Ustick, you get to, there's a little strip, and then there's a big piece on the corner at Franklin that I think is Jackson's, owns that property. I don't know that they've made any plans for that, but there. And there's a cell tower, I think, in the southwest corner off of our property. There's a cell tower. So you might use that as a landmark.
You would have a joint access agreement as far as for the cross access to the west then with that property owner?
We would show stub streets to the west. As shown here, again, that's typical for any development we would do. We would have stub streets to properties that are yet to be developed.
So the property to the west hasn't been developed yet?
No.
But it has been platted that I'm aware of.
I haven't seen a plat for that. I thought it was just one long, thin strip of property. So if it has,
You might check into it a little bit. further.
Okay. We will find out from the staff where their streets are located, if this has been platted. Thank you.
That might be a good question for staff also. Are there any other questions before we move? Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay, staff. Parker, is this yours? Thank you.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. The request tonight is just for annexation. There's no plat yet to go with this. The history, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of annexation with all conditions. That was last month.
Could I pause
yeah.
right there? Because I think you just said it's just for annexation, but I'm looking, it says, and potential development agreement. So I just want to make sure that.
Mayor, the development agreement would be up to the council to decide if that's what they would want to add as a condition
Okay.
of approval for the annexation.
Thank you.
The surrounding land uses to the north is single-family homes in the county. South is the RS7 subdivision. East is Canyon County Ag Land. To the west, Canyon County single-family home, and that is not platted. The utilities are available. The sewer is on the west side of Franklin, but there's plans to extend that just to east of Franklin. They're going to work with developers to extend that even further if this is to be approved. The regulations for annexation are in the staff report, as well as conclusions of law. As far as the uses, in the RS6 zone, single-family homes are permitted. 2-unit townhomes are permitted in the RS6 zone with a conditional use permit. 3 or 4 unit townhomes are permitted in the RMH zone, and apartments are permitted in the RMH zone as well. And those have density requirements for those. One other thing to note, the height restrictions in an RMH zone are going to be limited to 30 feet when they're within 100 feet of the RS zone. So there's going to be some height limitations on those RMH zoned developments. Some of the percentage breakdowns, the BC zone is 9%, IL is 8%, RMH 34.8, and then RS6 is 47.6% of the development. Here's a landscape plan, you might say, and some of these concepts could be included in a development agreement, as we discussed earlier. So that would kind of lock in this plan for the subdivision to come forward. Correspondence, there was a public comment that was received that voiced concern for traffic, the mixed-use development type, and property taxes. That letter was included in the staff report. The irrigation district has an easement from the canal there. As far as the engineering comments, there's really not much. Traffic impact study is required for project generating more than 100 vehicle trips. So they're going to have a traffic impact study for this development. Land uses, that's surrounded by mostly ag land here. To the south is the arm there. It's the Merriweather Park subdivision, which is owned RS7. The comprehensive plan is split, as you can see in the northwest corner. Part of it is in a community mixed use designation. There's no subdivision, as we discussed. The density of the RS6 subdivision, that's going to be restricted by the RS6 zoning standards. So there's going to be lot compatibility while averaging. As far as the RMH zoning, that's going to be restricted by the RMH chapter requirements for density. The nearest schools, Ridgeview High School, 1.6, Sage Valley Middle School, 2.65, and then East Canyon is 1.7, none within walking distance. This compass analysis here, again, more jobs are indicated as needed in the area. one thing to note, that the reason the subdivision is not going forward with the annexation here is the IL portion of the annexation request will not be platted as part of the subdivision, so they kind of wanted to separate those requests because of that IL zone property. The conditions of approval are in the staff report, as well as any that you would like to add. And there's a potential motion for you, and I will stand for questions.
Mayor Kling. Parker, can you go back to this, the city limit? Site. Okay, and again, what I brought up earlier with the applicant was the potential for a crossover. I worked on a mixed-use development that was approved to the west, but with COVID, that was over a year and a half, 2 years ago. I'm wondering if they pulled their application. But the section to the west that's yellow, that jumps up above that drain, is that now in the city limits? Has it been annexed?
Councilman, that has been annexed. That's RS7, that portion, that small chunk there.
It's RS7.
RS7.
Okay, because that all the way to Ustick was a mixed-use development. The back section was meant to be a storage complex, and then an IL, or a mixed use in the front portion, but I'm not sure what happened to the project. It's been a little bit.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, the project you are referencing is east of Star Road. This is between Franklin and Prescott. So the project you're referencing is farther to the east, closer to the Ada County line.
It just has a similar look to it. That's why I was confused.
It does have a very similar look to it, but it is a different location.
Okay, because they were putting a water, a well and everything on their property.
Yes,
which
we are
would have been-
currently working with them on options
Okay,
for
so
that.
that's still an ongoing project with you?
Yes, just a different location.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you. Sorry for the confusion.
Are there any other questions at this time? I'm sure we'll be back. Thank you, Parker. Appreciate it. Okay, so we have a few people signed up.
Daniel Bugley?
Daniel, thank you for sharing your address, and we appreciate you waiting and being here tonight.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, I'm the disgruntled individual at 7493 Ustick Road. We've known for quite some time that growth was coming to our neighborhood, whether we liked it or not. It is the density of these projects, clear from north side to my driveway, that upset me. And any given night, it may take me 30 minutes to drive from my home 4 miles to downtown Napa. But I'm sure several hundred more vehicles on that road at 6 p.m. won't affect my commute. I don't think there's been much thought into any of this. I see people coming in here profiteering. The city is not getting the good end of the stick. The residents are getting stuck with the bill. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Okay.
Garrett Doyle?
Okay, thank you. Okay? That's it? So, because Jane was the other person on there. Is there anyone else that had intended to testify this evening in support of or in opposition to? Okay, seeing none, we don't have anyone online, is that correct? Okay, so with that, Jane, I know you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, Jane Suggs representing Trestle Creek. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. We will, when we prepare a plat, be doing a traffic impact study because we will have enough units. Again, the density of this is very much in keeping with your comprehensive plan and where you want your density to occur on an arterial. Parker showed you what looked like a landscape plan, but was really just sort of a conceptual plan. That plan was prepared prior to the new code. So if you adopt that, I would ask for the development agreement, I would ask that it be a general adoption because it might not look exactly like that when we have to put the open space and the different lot sizes in. So just to let you know that if that's adopted, we won't be able to do exactly that. We would like to, but your code has changed. Also, when we come in with a preliminary plat, I believe we do a neighborhood meeting. So I have spoken to Mr. Daniel, who spoke to you before at their planning and zoning meeting, and we will be making sure that he is notified when we have a neighborhood meeting. So again, I don't think I have a whole lot to add. Just to know that we will be doing the neighborhood meeting, the traffic impact study, and we will make sure we meet your new code with a plat. But we do request your annexation and zoning tonight.
Thank you.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Jane, I'm just wondering the wisdom of putting a site plan before us that, and then asking for us to approve a development agreement, knowing that it's going to change.
Well, and that's fine. It was my understanding we presented a development agreement because of the annexation, that in case you wanted to add something, it was hard to add. I work in various jurisdictions, and many of them require a development agreement with an annexation. So, but if you don't want to put the plan forward, that's fine too. The zoning designations will really control the plan we bring back to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
And you've limited the area for each one of those
Yes.
zoning. And you've kind of got a conceptual, but again, whenever you put something like that before us, it just invites comment and feedback. And I'm just wondering at this point, the wisdom, whether we should approve a development agreement knowing that it's going to change. Because we've kind of gotten ourselves in situations in the past where we get feedback then from the community, why are you looking at changing, allowing a change to the plat when it's been presented and we've already gone through it. Knowing that you're going to go back and have a neighborhood meeting, I think is a good thing. And then have your feedback, the wisdom of being able to work with them, then bringing us a plat that we can look at and then comment on makes more sense to me. I don't have a problem with the annexation, I just have a problem with the development agreement.
I have a question about that, though. So if we approve this with a recommended annexation, because of the land use opportunities within those zones, we may not get this. And so you used a term. Was it a journal adoption? How did you word that? That you
General, just a
general was the word
adopt-
you said. A
I was,
general.
once
Okay.
we looked at that concept plan, which is, I think, a requirement when you're just doing annexation and rezone, that we bring you something so that you understand. But, in the meantime, you've changed your code. So that is just a very general plan. Will have multifamily up along Ustick and in the interior with the townhomes or some sort of RMH zone. We will have RS6 around the perimeter, and we will have BC and IL based on those zones. So that will be set. I just can't tell you exactly what. And we are controlled by heights, we're controlled by density in each of those zones. So if we don't put a concept plan in the DA, I think you're probably hitting on let's not do that if we don't need to do that, because it just creates more opportunity for misunderstanding.
So Mayor, I think to your point, looking at if you were to take all the little lines out, just go with color, and you had those areas being colored areas, and if we were to approve the concept. I'm not
General
sure if-
concept plan would be.
General concept plan as it's been presented, that still allows you to modify within those areas, those boundaries, to meet our more specific needs or requirements later
Or
on.
what the neighbors want to see.
Right,
Right,
exactly.
so, yeah. So
I think the intent of the compatibility around the east, west, and south perimeters, having the higher density in the middle or up towards Ustick, the mixed-use component of BC and IL is really a good thing to have, and I think we should encourage.
So I have a question about the IL. Currently, we're doing IL because of a landscaping company, but without a development agreement, if the landscape company goes away and it's zoned IL, whatever could go in there. Now,
an IL use.
an
yes.
IL use, which is a little bit broad in that area. So although you would want to protect the integrity, right, of the entire development, you wouldn't want to compromise that by putting the wrong use in there.
Right, and likely it will not be something this developer will determine because that is owned by someone else. It will be a separate lot, it will be their business, and they may sell that one day to another IL use, and that gets to the compatibility and the connectivity. So we can do that or not. Again, there are some opportunities to put IL on your arterials. So,
It just depends on which one it is.
yeah.
And that's the concern. I guess, so that would be my concern, if to rezone to a IL without any restrictions on what that IL can be.
Do you zone ILC, conditional use? No?
Sorry. So that would be part of what you could put into the development agreement, if you wanted to go that direction, would be the conditions of what would be allowed in that zone that would be compatible with the surrounding zones, if that's a concern for you.
So we would want the existing use to not be over-conditioned because it's there, but maybe future uses with, like you say, maybe in the DA with a condition, like so that you get, some staff at least gets to look at it and say, yeah, we're not going to do a manufacturing plant there. Or, but there are some really, I think there'll be some, I haven't looked at a lot of the IL uses lately, but I think there would be something that would be compatible to that. And again, jobs. I mean, one of the things we're looking for is not just retail jobs for somebody serving you coffee, but a real job. And that's a possibility there.
Mayor Kling. Jean, what type of business are you expecting to be in the BC?
Well, I don't know. This is a project that the residential portions will be built by Corey Barton. So, and he doesn't do commercial yet, though I've talked to him recently and said he needs to. Mostly neighborhood and regional serving businesses there, so more than a coffee shop. Could be some offices. I mean, we'd like to see, again, some possibility of employment, some office, not just a 7-Eleven, which is probably going to be down on a corner someplace, but a 7 Jackson's or Maverick or something, but actual businesses, office-type businesses, probably compatible with the residential there.
Mayor Kling, because I'm wondering when you have a neighborhood meeting, if some of the trips you make into Nampa, if there were services near your location, if some of that irritating commute, because I get you on that, that irritating commute, could, if some of that business could be facilitated closer to where people are living.
And likely purchased by someone who will develop that for that very reason. Some businesses that want that Ustick Road visibility, but also want something that's not located at a corner. Sometimes corners are hard because of the offset on the access. So you get on a corner and there's a roundabout and you really can't get in and out as well. This would be a really nice place where you can get in and out, and it's kind of mid-block. I'm sorry I don't have specific uses, but.
So Mayor, question, Christie, so we can control a future sale of an IL, we can control what businesses would go in there next go-around?
Councilman Bruner, you can make a list in the development agreement of businesses that
That would need
feel
to be
would
done with this,
Yes.
at this point in time?
Yes, and it stays with the property.
The difficulty is tonight, coming up with that list
Yes.
of really knowing what we would, and it might be easier to exclude rather than include. But we don't, do you have we would need in front of us a worksheet, something to make that off of, because for council just to do that just like that and not be overly restrictive or not restrictive enough, I wouldn't want to make a mistake in that. Yes.
Is there any reason this business in the IL zone couldn't be in a BC zone?
I was under the impression that the use of outdoor storage, heavy equipment, those types of things aren't really necessarily what you would see in the BC, which would be more of an office use. But they do have equipment that they move in and out. They will be dedicating right-of-way as part of the annexation, but it won't be part of the plat. as Parker said, because they want to maintain their 2 driveways, so they wouldn't be restricted to a driveway. So I think that's mostly it, is the equipment storage and outdoor storage, some outbuildings that are on the site.
Is there such a thing as grandfathering an existing use? If we did not rezone it to IL, but considered possibly BC, but grandfathering the existing use?
Mayor, that's exactly what would happen. If you chose to zone this BC, which you could, then that use would be grandfathered because it's already existing in the county. So they could continue to operate. They just would not be able to add new buildings or expand what they're doing if they're not an allowed use in the zone that you place on the property.
And I don't know that we want to restrict their success as a business. We would want them to be able to expand and continue to succeed as a business.
You know, you could, in the development agreement, state that the use that is there now is what's allowed. Anything coming forward, then they would either have to do a development agreement modification, rezone the property, or potentially get a conditional use permit. But you could restrict it to just that one use if you wanted to do that.
Is there, I'm gonna have to ask, do you mind if I ask a question?
Not at all.
Is there something more intense than BC but not IL?
No, there's nothing between those two.
Okay, I was just wondering if there was something that would allow something more intense, because BC to me seems like it's, like you say, it's not one of those uses that.
IP?
I'm sorry?
IP, industrial park?
I don't know if it's big enough for what's considered an industrial park, but I guess I'm just anxious about limiting the opportunity for, like I said, some uses that might be a little more industrial than what BC would, which is typically an office area and maybe some retail. So I'm just.
Todd, do you have an idea?
Mayor, my suggestion is, it sounds like Jane's open to some perhaps limitations. The council seems like it may be open to that. To me, it sounds like it's a good idea maybe to continue this and let Jane come up with some ideas for limitations to propose in that particular zone. So it may be IL, but or BC, but it could still be focused via the development agreement. Visit with staff about that. Let her present that, and go from there. So I think that's my thought, rather than, it sounds like you're not quite comfortable coming up with that list right now.
So continue, I guess the possibility then would be to continue to date certain, and maybe we just do it to continue it to the next council meeting and let you come back with some suggested uses?
Yes.
Okay. It's very difficult on the spot to identify a development agreement from scratch, because I think that, I think we could risk error whichever way it goes. I want to make sure that we make a wise decision. I'd also like to ensure that in the residential that there's, and I think you've talked about adhering to the open space requirements.
That's the new code.
Right,
Yes.
thank you.
So I'm, again, different because plats go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Directing the Planning and Zoning Commission in their approval of the plat to include only certain zones, is that not something that could be?
No, that's totally doable. We do, yeah, we would follow the development agreement accordingly.
Yeah, okay, because I was just wondering about coming back to you and then going to, with a plat, if there was a way to recommend approval with this, but that P and Z only consider certain uses. I guess, but the zoning really is a city council thing, so I guess I can't. I was just trying to push that back down to P and Z since we're going to be in front of them anyway.
Well, and you could go ahead and be scheduled in front of P&Z. If we continue this to the next council meeting of December 6th, date certain, you could still already be scheduled for that next piece.
Okay.
I think.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Certainly,
So it
yeah.
doesn't really push you back too much?
Mayor, we're scheduling into February now, so she has plenty of time.
But not December 6th, we can still come back here.
Oh, you can still come back with the development
Okay.
agreement on December 6th, absolutely.
I'm in. And just discussion on this particular item?
Yes, this would be just this particular action item 6.3. And the continuing to date certain of December 6th would be to make the final decision on the annexation and zoning with recommendations on how to put together that development agreement, the language of the development agreement, and suggested uses in the IL zone.
Thank you.
And is that in keeping with the will of the council? Are we good with that? Okay, so then at that, we've completed, we will leave the public hearing open. We will not have a motion to close public hearing. We will, at this time, though, I would ask for a motion from the council to continue this public hearing to December 6th to allow for the information to come forward as discussed. So moved by Darrell Bruner. Is there a second? Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer? And Bruner.
Yes.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you, staff, for working through this and figuring it out. We appreciate it.
Mayor, I just want to say, Jane, you do a great job. Appreciate
Yes, you do.
give us the education, so thank you. And maybe that's why I like it, yeah.
But it's thorough. Thank you. Thank you.
And your boots are really cool.
I was just going to say that.
I know. I said it for you.
Yeah.
They're what? I love the heel. Look at the heel of them. They're cool.
So to the citizens that were here tonight, thank you for taking the time to come. You are welcome. This will be a public hearing that will be open for comment on the 6th of December. And there will be more information because we've kept the public hearing open, correct? So thank you, though, for coming. We appreciate it. Okay, we are going to move to item 6.4 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is annexation and zoning to RS6 to connect to city utilities for an existing single-family home and future lot split at 907 West Greenhurst Road for Jose and Martha Diaz. And are they here this evening? Maybe not. So this is Parker. Are they with us this evening or online or?
Mayor, I saw her here earlier. I'm not sure if she's still here. We might need to check in the lobby.
And you know, I understand, Darrell, when you suggested them going first, I see why. Yeah, we usually do it this way, and that may be something to consider if there's just a simple one, we put it first, but we do it kind of the other way with the largest groups, so, but thank you. And even if she's not here, we may go ahead, because the due diligence and the effort was to be here, we would go ahead and move forward with action on this item would be my recommendation. So, okay, so they've probably needed to leave, but let's go ahead, Parker, and you can present for us. And I know typically we like them to be here, but we know that they were.
Thank you, Mayor. If it's any help, we had a discussion earlier with her about the right-of-way dedication and the future splitting of her lot, and so she is okay with the right-of-way dedication. She understands that process, and it needs to be signed by her, so she understands that whole process, if that's any help to you.
Thank you.
The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of this back in October. I apologize, this is annexation and zoning to RS6 to connect to city utilities for the existing home there. The future land use is medium-density residential. It's surrounded by RA and RS6 to the north, RS6 to the south, RS6 to the east, and county to the west, and those are all single-family homes to the west in the county. The regulations, conclusions of law, and the staff report, so I won't cover those. The right-of-way dedication will be 40 feet from the center line, section line, to match the property to the east. The Lumen had a comment that there could be potential conflicts on the north side of the property, that if there's construction, they would need to supply a full set of plans. And we had this discussion with her at Planning and Zoning Commission. So she understands that if there's going to be construction on the front of the property, that she'll need to work with Lumen on that.
That the developer's responsible for any expenses related to that, is that correct?
Yes. That's
Right, 'cause
correct.
that would
So if
be-
they need to move any of those facilities, that they would be responsible to pay for the move.
The developer would be. The individual homeowner would not be saddled with that.
Mayor, if they're gonna come in and subdivide the property and, to build more homes behind it, the developer, whoever builds those homes, is gonna have to pay for that move of those facilities.
Perfect. Thank you.
The proposed use matches the area. The RS zoning district, the proposed lot here is 1.02 dwelling units an acre, which is below the medium density amount. So if they're going to develop this property in the future, it'll likely be between 3 to 7 homes, 7 being the largest, 3 being the smallest amount allowed. So once the property is annexed, they'll be eligible to split the lot once. Any further subdivision will have to meet the RS6 zoning standards. There's a potential motion for you as well. I will stand for any questions.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Parker, do you have access to the aerial map that shows the project location in color?
As far
Okay,
as is
yeah, that
more
one.
zoomed out, this one?
The one you were
This
just
one?
at, yeah. Looking at the 40-foot right-of-way and how it's going to impact that house and the house to the west of it, they're not going to be doing any improvements to the Greenhurst at this point, are they? To align with what's happening to the east of them?
Councilman, I'm not sure what the projected timeline is for Greenhurst Road. I don't believe it's anytime in the near future. Maybe Daniel can answer that question.
Because granting the right-of-way, the front of their home to that right-of-way is going to be less than 10 feet, the way that I see it, as far as in that aerial. And then the house to the west of them, 921, is even going to be worse. They'd have to demolish those homes to be able to widen Greenhurst.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, the homes there are approximately between 57 and 60 feet from the section line. And so a 40-foot right-of-way dedication for one of the homes leaves it with a 20-foot setback from the new right-of-way, and the other one a 17-foot setback.
It doesn't appear that as far as when I just drew a line across, so maybe
Well,
I draw lines.
and that's the measurements I'm getting off of the GIS system, the actual measurements.
Just, if you look at what's up there on the screen and take that line across, it's almost hitting the house at 921. And it's about 10 feet away from 907. But all I'm saying is, obviously, I'm all for them being able to annex for the intent of hooking to city water and sewer, but I'm just looking at long-term, those houses are awfully close to what, is that an 80-foot right-of-way?
So, Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, Greenhurst would be an 80-foot total right-of-way. And so there will be a couple feet behind the sidewalk typically that would be within the right-of-way. So the actual distance from the sidewalk to the home would be almost 20 feet.
So you're counting that space?
Well, like I
see
say,
what- Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just when they come in and ask to be able to put a deck in the front of their house like we've seen elsewhere in town.
Mayor and council, based on our code, they wouldn't be allowed to even regardless of the right-of-way dedication.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions for Parker? Okay, thank you. And Parker, go ahead and leave your, thank you, you've got it. Okay. So this is a public hearing. We do not have anyone signed up to testify. I'm sorry.
No, excuse me, Mayor, I was just saying it's only 8:45 for Darrell.
Okay, so this is a public hearing, and we do not have anyone testify in support of or in opposition to this request. So with that, and the applicant is not here, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
Moved.
And I guess before we vote, I forgot to ask, is there anyone here that had intended to testify? Seeing none, okay, and we have a motion to close public hearing. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what is the will of the council?
Mayor, I move to approve the annexation and zoning to R6 single-family residence for, at 907 West Greenhurst Road for Jose and Marta Diaz, with all conditions listed in the staff report.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Bauer, Haverfield,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
and Rodriguez.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so that concludes our council meeting this evening. Yes, Councilman Haverfield.
Can we take a 17-minute break so that I can win the break? Oh, I guess not.
Do what?
I think Jacob won.
Yeah, he won.
Okay. Good. Did anybody else on this end win? No? Okay. Jacob, you are the winner this evening, and if anybody wants to know what that is, it's what time the meeting ended, right? So we had it.
I said 8 o'clock.
Okay. So I would stand for a motion to adjourn.